Welcome to the Talk and Chatter experience powered by Gasoline Alley Harley Davidson and M33 Productions. Contact us for all your videography and photography requirements. My guest today is former motorcycle racer Jemma Wilson. Jemma successfully competed in motorcycle racing around the world for over a decade. In that time, Jemma won 8 state championships, 4 Australian off-road championships, 5 Women's World Cup team championships, and competed in the World Enduro GPs as a privateer. After retiring from the sport in 2018, Jemma has created a successful events company that combines her passion for motorcycling and bringing other riders into the sport. Hope you all enjoy listening to this podcast with Jemma. Between the pair of us, we could probably both talk underwater for at least a week. If you enjoy the podcast, make sure you hit subscribe on our YouTube, give us a review on iTunes, and have a nice weekend. Welcome, Jemma Wilson.
Thank you.
Cheers for coming in.
Yeah, of course.
We've spoken about this for a little while, and you've gone through a bit of a rebranding. You reached out again and said, "Hey, what are you doing for Christmas? Let's come in and get this happening." So, yeah, cheers for coming down or up or wherever you've come from today, because I know you usually be coming down, but where you been these last few days?
So it is down still. I've been in Brizzy at St. Lucia, training with a bunch of 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old kids. So like the batch of next motocross and enduro riders. And we do it every year. Motorcycling Queensland runs it. It's called the Trip Camp, Talented Rider Identification Program. And it's a really good 3 days. It's everything except riding the bike. Wow. So we have a lot of specialists come in, so nutritionists, psychologists, physios. We get Pilates lady come in and get the 15-year-old boys to try and do some stretching, which is always a laugh.
It's going to catch up.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a really good 3 days. And I did it myself as a 16, 17, 19, 20-year-old. I just didn't stop going back. And now I'm a coach there. Because, the information that these kids get, you can't really get it anywhere else. So it's a really great initiative that Motorcycling Queensland do.
Wow. Was Rodney Jenner involved in it back then?
Yeah, so Rod and Chris Urquhart started it back, I think, in 2003, and I went for the first time in 2005, and then I kept going back, up until probably like 2010, and then had a couple-year break, and then went as a female chaperone because it was 2 bloke coaches, so they wanted like an adult female to kind of support any of the girls that went along. And we'd always have like 1 or 2, quite a few of the camps I was the only girl, and now this camp we had 10 kids, and 5 of them were women. Girls, and the calibre of the 5 girls was just up there. So it's so cool to see that evolution, that's for sure.
It's certainly, the landscape of that has certainly changed from 2005, like you said, to today. And that's something we'll touch on probably further as we go. But it would have been cool to see in the last few days. Yeah.
And, like the beep test, the age-old
How'd you go?
Fitness test. Oh, I didn't do it. These old knees and ankles. So just the results that the girls got were fantastic. I think Charlie Kennan ran, a 10-something, which is great. She can always get better. And that's the idea behind it, giving her all this knowledge to go away and get even better. But she's already, as a 15-year-old, just, so fit, so driven, so motivated. It was really cool to see.
And this puts them into such a good state to start 2022. Like it's the end of the year. They get Christmas time to sort of discover their goals and then move forward to race, eh?
Yeah, and that's the idea. So it used to be a 5-day camp. It's now a 3-day camp, which we're going to try to extend it back to 5 because it's like too much information in 3 days, I reckon. And we train them like 2 and 3 sessions a day. So they're knackered by the end of the 3 days too. Wow. But it is that bit of a kickstart. So the idea is we've got them to write a training program, but we've filled them with the knowledge. It's a very base knowledge, obviously, and we don't have sports science degrees as well. But to kind of, they go into a gym and the local guy at the gym tells them to do something. They'll have enough knowledge to know whether it is going to be beneficial or not because there's like so much information out there. But then we didn't write programs for them. We, as a class and a big whiteboard, and we worked out what we might like to do, and we, what we did this week, and if this was the first week of our training block, what would next week 2, look like? And they write it themselves, and then they write week 3, and then they work out when they can't do it and when they can, so that they're more likely to actually stick to the program. And I think one of the biggest things we do is just kind of talking around that goal setting and sacrifice, because you can't make it if you're not willing to sacrifice some things. And teamwork. So, these are 15, 16-year-old kids, so their team is their family. So, today to sit down with their mum, dad, brother, sister, whoever helps them out and have that chat. This is what I want. This is my end goal. This is my next year goal. What can we do as a family, as a team to make it happen? Which I think, when you're that age, you don't see the big picture. So we try to help them see the big picture. It's a good couple of days for that.
And it's as you know too, motorcycling can be a selfish pursuit. It really can. But if you can get your family in that involved, it sort of brings it back to being a real team. Not so much of back on yourself, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is a hard thing to do.
Yeah, you can't do it yourself. You can do a lot yourself, but you can't do it all yourself. And especially when you're 15, you can't get yourself to the track.
No way.
And so it's pretty hard if you've got this plan, but mum and dad think that this is your plan. How are you ever going to be on the same path? So the idea is to get the kids to start sitting down and chatting about what they want. And hopefully everyone gets on the same page and it makes it easier.
It's awesome. And it's so cool to see these programs, like initiatives and that, getting in place, because without them, we just have people just running all over the shop saying this is the best thing we're going to do and that. And it just brings things funneled back in, doesn't it?
Yeah, and so Rod, way back, 2003, sat down with Motorcycling Queensland, and Motorcycling Australia had been running the AIS camps, so the multi-state, and usually we have more disciplines. Usually it's not just motocross and enduro. Unfortunately, it was all a little bit rushed because we weren't sure whether it was going to happen with COVID and stuff. So I think they're the sort of only subcommittees that really got involved this year round. But usually we have trials, road race, speedway. We had a sidecar guy once. It is all disciplines, and it's really great for the kids to meet other kids from different disciplines as well and kind of see what else is out there, because motocross kids especially have their blinkers on.
Yeah. Well, there's only jumps in there.
Yeah. So Rod would go down and help out at the AIS, be one of the coaches down there. And the coach, he said, a lot of the outside people would come in and be like, yeah, you need a sports psychologist, you need to go pay one. Yes, you need a nutritionist, you need to go pay one. And Rod's like, well, these kids don't have endless, bottomless pockets. So the idea of the Queensland was to try to give them the information to spend as little as they could to get the most out of it. So kind of training them to find a way around having to spend bulk coin.
I just better notify you too. We're in the service centre and there's a couple of Harley might start. So.
Yep. Earthquake.
Yeah. But you don't actually hear it too much over the microphones or anything. But I should have told you that before we started because your face there.
So I worked it out.
Yeah. Let's get into this. Who is Gemma Wilson?
So Gemma Wilson, I am an ex-racer. So I rode enduro from 2006, I think 2005 might have been my first year's racing Aussies. So the Australian Off-Road Championships as a 16-year-old. So turned 16, went and raced the women's class. And then 2009 was my first international 16 enduro. I was one of the 3 girls that got on the first ever Motorcycling Australia team to the ISDE. And we got 3rd, which was really cool. And an outside company paid for us because Motorcycling Australia were a bit like, oh, we don't really want to spend the money on the women because they probably won't finish, because the international 6-day is quite a big thing. Yeah. And so this outside company supported us 3 to go and have a crack, and we got 3rd, and we all finished, and we did a cracker of a job. So Motorcycling Australia have supported the women ever since. And obviously it's a bit of a shame that Motorcycling Australia themselves couldn't see that back then, but I think times have already changed a bit since 2009. Yep. And I'm so grateful to that outside company. It was Wellard, I think a shipping, import-export company from WA.
Wow.
They gave women the opportunity to show Motorcycling Australia what we could do. So then we went back in, I think 2010 was in Mexico. Nobody from Australia went to Mexico because there was a bit of drug cartel unrest kind of situation going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then 2011 was Finland. We got 3rd again. 2012, I didn't race. I had 2 broken ankles. So Taylor Jones took my spot as a 16-year-old and killed it. And they got 2nd. And then from 2013 to 2017, so 5 years, myself, Jess Gardner and Taylor Jones won the International 16 Enduro. And then the next year I retired, and then Mackenzie Tricker took my spot and they won again. And then unfortunately last year there was no ISDE, but the year before that they had some dramas. Yep. And Aussies didn't win for the first time in a long time.
What an insane run, hey?
Yeah, that was really cool. Yeah. So I got a bit sidetracked there talking about ISDE. So retired racer, so first Aussies in 2005, first Worlds in 2009, and then I rode the World Enduro GPs from 2012 to 2016. First couple of years on a team, a Greek team and then a Swedish team, and it didn't really work for me. Mm-hmm. So I kind of got to that point where it's, do I retire or do I try and do it by myself? So I chose to do it by myself. Yep. And myself and my now husband, then fiance, owned a car and a bike in France, and we'd fly over and drive ourselves around Europe. So we did another 3 years as privateers, but got help along the way because Worlds is a big thing. So there was a lot of different people around Europe that supported us, which was cool.
Yep.
And then retired from retired from the World Enduro GPs in 2016, ISDEs in 2017, was trying to make it to the end of 2018 and finish up the AORCs, but I got halfway through 2018 season and I just couldn't do it anymore.
Yep,
so I pulled the pin halfway through 2018 and now I've moved full-time into running events and coaching. So specifically not specifically, a lot of lady-only stuff, but I do coach a lot of dudes as well.
It's like, I remember my first really, really decent chat to you, Gemma. And we've had heaps of chats along the way, but my first real decent chat was standing out the front of AusX in that year, 18.
Yeah.
17, 18 it was. And you just were so far removed from being part of the racing part of the scene. I remember just talking to you like, no, I feel done. Like, must be a weird feeling to get to that point, yeah? After doing it for so long.
Yeah, it was. And I think, so about 2 years earlier, I was really like, do I retire? Do I keep racing? Do I retire? Keep racing? Like 5 minutes, like one second I'd be like, I'm going to quit. 5 minutes later, I'd be like, I can't quit. And so I didn't know what I wanted to do. And then Stephen Gall, actually, he coached me for that year and we spent a lot of time together, and I credit my last two ISDEs, like years of ISDE, World Enduro GP and AORCs, to Stephen Gall, because he totally changed the way I thought about racing. He changed the way I was riding on the bike. Like he just, I got another 2 brilliant years out of motorcycling thanks to Stephen. And then when I retired, I knew it was time. There was no like, what do I do? I was like, I'm just done. Yeah,
you're cool. It's all over.
Yeah, I actually pulled the pin in the middle of a race in Dungog.
It was just bike back in the van, hey?
Yeah, I just rode the bike into the back of the van. It was a time card enduro, so I took my time card over to the Motorcycling like Australia truck. And Jan Walden was there, who has been like the boss lady my whole career, and we get on really well. And I was like, she's like, whoa, what are you doing? I was like, here's my time card. She's like, are you injured? I was like, no. She's like, you got bike issues? No. She's like, you don't like the track? I'm like, I love Dungog. Like, Dungog is single lane, grass track. Like, it's me all day. I'm like, no, I love the track. She's like, well, what's the problem? I was like, I'm done, Jan. I'll see you when I see you. And got in the car and drove 12 hours home and sent out the email and made the phone calls on Monday being like, thank you, sponsors, and like, thank you for everything. And I know I committed to the whole year, but I just can't do it.
It's just all over.
Yeah.
That, especially with the success, so much success, and to do that, it takes a strong mind just to walk away. It really does. Because, and well done to you.
I mean, I kind of knew a bit earlier on in the year that I was pretty done, but I'd sort of committed. And my husband was actually, we got married in the middle of 2018. So in the beginning of 2018, I was like, I don't think I want to do this. And he's like, you've already signed things. Like, you've already prepared the season. Like, you'll love it once you start. Like, you'll love it. And I was like, yeah, you're right. I love it. I love racing. And then I won the first couple of rounds. I hadn't touched a bike since the 6 days the year before. And the only person that beat me out of like the clubby and over 35, over 45, because we were on a different track to like the pros, was Ben Grabham. I smoked everybody else, and I was like, geez, a few months off the bike was a good thing.
This is good.
And then I was like, all right, cool. I got some momentum. I roll into the next rounds. I don't even remember. Like, I just think I hated it. And then the 4-day, slogged through it, said my goodbyes because I knew it was my last ever 4-day, and then got married and went on a honeymoon, and then got back and was like, oh my God, I still have half a year to do. And then,
just not
so I dragged myself like literally crying to Dungog and couldn't do it.
At least, you figured it out, and that's the main thing. A lot of people just ride on and do their things and just disappoint themselves because they hate it,
Yeah. And now I get asked all the time, like, do you miss it? And I would. I absolutely 100% would, because it was like my whole life for 15 years.
Yep.
But because of what I do now, I still get to load my bike up, go adventuring, and, work with some amazing brands and people.
Yep.
I get like all of the good part of racing and none of the competitive getting myself to Headley in the middle of winter in a freaking blizzard.
Yeah, in a van doing this. Like, it's insane what people do for racing. Like, it really is.
Yeah.
And John, one of the most lovely guys going around, and how did he step in? Was he sort of like a coach for some of those times for you as well?
John,
how's that work?
He's so fantastic, and he's like the most emotionally mature person I know, and he's forever trying to make me better in that way. And he's doing a good job of it. I'm maturing. So in the beginning, like we've been together since I was 17. So he was 17. I was 17. He was 19. And motorbikes was my thing. And I went off with Dad, and, you know, he lived his life and I lived mine. And then I did a degree. I did a law degree when I finished school. And so while I was studying law, it was still like John worked, I studied law, Dad would come pick me up and we'd go racing.
Yep.
It was still very much my thing. And then at the end of 2011, when I graduated, Dad's like, all right, cool, well, you're on your own. I was like, yep, cool, fair enough. And so I started racing World. So in 2012, I went over by myself and did it. And then 2013, I convinced John to pack up everything and move to Sweden with me.
Damn.
And I think that just from what he saw and what I told him about the World Championships from 2012, he was like, all right, this is legit. Like, you know, it took quite a few years for John to realise that it wasn't just something that I did. It was like, it was everything kind of thing. And I think in the beginning it wasn't everything. I was going to be a lawyer. But halfway through that law degree, I was like, this thing, like this degree is just something I'm finishing. Yep. I'm going to go race motorbikes. So, yeah, and while we were in Sweden together, he became the team. And then it was me and him for 3 years, like from 2014, 15, the end of 2013 actually, so 3.5 years. Like it was us against the world, and it was really, really cool. And now with what I do, like I run a business with no real business training, you know.
Yeah. But you're still a team, like it's still like the same sort of deal, isn't it?
Yeah, and so and he runs a business and we run another business together, and like just I'm so grateful to have John. He just makes everything so much better.
Great. As I said at the start, just one of the nicest guys. And if anyone gets a chance just to sit around a fire and talk to him, like your heart rate won't go up. Just the nice person, you know, just genuinely nice.
Yeah, and he does love a chat.
Oh, yeah. Especially late night at a fire.
Oh, yeah.
But why law? What made you pursue law?
I think just like at school. Oh, well, actually, so my dad is a very unique individual and I love him so much, and I credit a lot of who I am to my dad. And from like my preschool report card was like, Gemma's going to university, because I just told everyone that I was going to university because Dad had told me since I could walk that I was going to university. And then I don't really know. I feel like, you know, I studied like legal studies, like I did legal studies as a class, and I enjoyed it. And I think Dad was listening to like ABC Talkback Radio, and he heard some guy say that if you're, you know, some rando kid from a small country town in a public school, you're just never going to make it as a lawyer. You're not going to get a law degree. You have to have that corporate parent and like go to the fancy private school. And I think Dad told me, just knowing that, I'd be like, well, I'll show them. Yeah.
Sounds Gemma.
Yeah. So, and I also, my motto was, and this is what I tell kids all the time, because I'm a school teacher now as well. So, you know, when kids are like, why are we even here? Like, what is school all about? School is all about showing you a little bit of everything, and then you see what you like, and then you take that and you roll with it. And when you're 17, like, what, 1% of people would know what they want to do for the rest of their life?
Maybe that.
If that, yeah. So my goal was like, well, my idea was aim high, you know, and it can't hurt to have a law degree.
Yep.
And then see what happens. And that's, I didn't know what I wanted to do, so law degree it was.
There it was. Did you know you wanted to be a teacher? Because, like, as a motorcycle teacher, you're a fantastic motorcycle teacher. Did you know that you want to be a teacher?
No, and I cop it now from all the kids. Miss, why would you want to be a teacher? Why would you come back here? And I'm like, look, I was you as well at school, but I'm a relief teacher, and so my hat goes off to every actual teacher out there, because they are the best humans. I'm just a relief teacher. I roll in, we finish a few pages of the textbook, we play handball, I leave. Like,
pretty good.
Relief teaching is good.
Yeah.
So now it's a fantastic job, and I get to hang out with cool young people, and they have the whole world ahead of them. But I just did a postgrad degree. It was like 9 months from start to finish, and then boom, you're a teacher.
Yep.
And when I was 19, I had lots of random part-time jobs while I was racing, and one of them was a teacher aide at my old primary school, so a little country primary school. And I knew that I had enjoyed that. So then I made friends with this guy who was the behaviour management person for the whole of like the Kulula Coast region. And he was like, Gemma, you'd make a fantastic teacher. And I was like, oh, I did really enjoy, you know, being a teacher aide. And then it was the last year that you could do the postgrad degree in 9 months.
Right.
So 2017 for me was, I raced Queenslands, Aussies, International 6-day Enduro. I did a postgrad teaching degree where you had to do 16 weeks of unpaid prac, like 14 assignments, like all the learning. And it was my first year running the Fox Women's Off-Road Campout. So the first year running a business as well. Wow. So like there were so many tears that year. Thank you, Johnny.
Life coach.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just, I thought, look, do it. Because my motto in life has always been the more I do now, the less I have to do later. So I was like, crack on, get that year done. And now it's this fantastic, job where I only work at two little schools, Kilkeven State School and more recently Woollooga State School. So Woollooga has 7 kids in the whole school.
Really?
Yep, so prep to 6.
Wow.
And it's such a nice time. I go out there, I hang out with some really cool kids. Yeah, and then I go home again and I don't have to mark or
just walk
plan
away.
Or
Drop the microphone. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's where you went to school too, hey?
No, so I used to teach at Gympie High, which is where I went to school, and I've done one day at Kiora State School, which was my primary school.
Yeah.
And look, Gympie High, it's a bigger school. Yep. And as a relief teacher, everybody remembers how they treated relief teachers, right?
Yeah.
And I'd have really good days at Gympie High, but I would also have those rough ones, and I just was like, I don't need this.
Yep.
And then I ended up just getting a random day out at Kilkeven, and I was like, this is my home.
Yep.
And the staff out there, the kids out there, the community out there, it's just so brilliant.
So growing up, like, as you grew up in the area, must have been a good lifestyle to grow up in, hey?
Yeah, it really was. So lived on property sort of like between Gympie and Tincan Bay.
Yep.
Just out in the bush, just a bush kid.
Yep.
Didn't have to wear shoes to school until like grade 6 or something.
You had a pretty alternative lifestyle, hey? Like, not alternative, but it was the lifestyle that everyone probably wants to live now.
Yeah, you're probably right,
living
actually.
Off the land and that sort of feel. That's correct, hey?
Yeah, so my dad was an organic pawpaw and banana farmer.
Right.
So we'd live the bush life, you know, swam in dams.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It's what everyone wants to do now, but we weren't attuned to it probably then, So it's interesting because I remember you told me a long time ago that was how it was. It was living basically off the land, lived in your own private place and did this and that. But when did riding come into it?
So actually we had a funny home rule. We weren't allowed to ride until we were 12.
Really?
Yeah, so I have an older brother. He's 2 years older than me. So he was riding for 2 years and he'd, go off with dad and, all the friends on a Sunday, go trail riding because it's just straight out the driveway and into the bush. And I can't go, I'm not 12.
So you didn't ride a bike till 12?
No, and then I got a DT175.
Yep.
And I remember sitting on it and trying to start it because Dad would let me because I got it before I was 12.
Yep.
And I remember trying to start it. And Dad reckons that he did end up giving in and let me ride a bit early because I pestered him.
Yeah.
And so somewhere around 12, maybe a little bit earlier, started riding, just trail riding, and then did a couple of trail rides. And then Dad and Owen had a go at just a Queensland Enduro.
Yep.
And I was like, yes, I want to do that.
And that's how you fell into it?
Yeah.
Into Enduro?
Yeah.
Damn, that's insane. I honestly would have thought the skill level and what you've achieved, because you've ridden from a kid. But what was after that? After the DT, what did you get into? What was the enduro bike or whatever to go and do?
So it was actually a CRF 230. I did my first couple races on.
Yep.
And then I was there was this big group of people, locals that ran these on-track rider rides. So it was a big church group.
Yep.
And so as a 13, 14, 15-year-old, Mum and Dad were so happy to send me off with this church group that weren't drinking and stuff and riding motorbikes, which was, I think I was very lucky at that age because that's when we lose a lot of riders because they go off and do other things on the weekends that aren't conducive to riding motorcycles.
Yeah. Alternatives.
Yeah. I made friends with these people and I think I can credit actually kind of the kickstart into racing a little bit to them as well because they were such a good bunch of people. And I had the CRF 230 and I was teaching a school friend, Becky Lally, to ride and she grabbed a whole heap of front brake and just went over the bars and because the CRF 230s aren't they're farm bikes. Yep. So it just bent everything. And I was going to do my first motocross on the CRF 230, but it was bent. So Dad ended up just buying me this random secondhand YZF 250.
Yeah, okay, cool.
And then I was on the 254 stroke Yamahas for the next 15 years.
That was you for,
until I quit racing, Yeah. I flipped it off the start line at Coolum at my first motocross.
Are you serious? Well, you've just been off a DT and a CRF 230 to a whole lot of power on a YZ 250.
Yeah, and I got it on the Thursday and then raced it on the Sunday and flipped it off the start line.
How did you go there? Apart from flipping it on the start.
I don't. That's the only thing I really remember about it. And I do remember I had my sleeves pushed up because that was cool gangster. Back then. Yeah.
Full gangster. You're a massively hardworking person, right? But were you a natural on riding bikes? Did that come naturally, or was it just really hard work and training? And what was it?
I think, like, without sounding like a dick, I think it was like a bit natural because I just enjoyed it. I just rode motorbikes, and I had the attitude where worst thing that could happen is you could fall off. Yep. So I wasn't afraid to give new things a go. Because the first time I went to this under 21s camp as like a 16-year-old, I sat there and was like, oh my God, you have to exercise for this?
You can't just hop on and ride out of the farm?
Yeah. Yep. That was a real eye-opener for me. I had no idea. And then from there, so Rod, during the week when the kids were running laps, one of the times we were having a chat, and he's like, do you think you were fit enough? Like, do you think that if you were fitter, you could have gone further with racing? And I was like, look, in the beginning, yes. But towards the end, because I did like Stephen Gall, Tim Cole training for a couple of years in there, which really kickstarted me and totally changed like my lifestyle and the way that I thought about exercise. And I did get fit. The thing that let me down was actually the on-bike training. Like the worlds were so hard, so difficult and so tricky, and I needed to probably spend a little bit more time getting better at the hard stuff on the bike.
Wow.
Because, I was doing enough off-bike training.
Yep.
Yeah.
So like bike technique sort of stuff?
Yeah, and I did the first year in 2012 of the World Enduro Championships and realised that I had this big gaping hole in my ability to do the extreme test, which was, the cement bollards and truck tyres and big hills in old quarries and things. And so I went down to Parks so Ben Burrell was like a junior at the time, riding for, actually he was a senior then. He was a really fast junior with Ballard's off-road team. And then he was a great young adult rider with KTM factory team. So I went down and he had sort of given up by then. He had changed his mind, wanted to be a farmer. Now he's got a family and he looks very happy. But I went down and rode with his dad because his dad was like super keen Fudge. Fudge's good mates with Jeff Ballard and they used to do a lot of stuff together. And anyways, he was a good coach and he had a trials background because trials would help me with this extreme stuff.
Yep.
So I went down there, had a great couple of days riding, was on the trials bike one of the days. Right at the end of the day, we were jumping off this causeway into a dry creek and I landed with my toes on the pegs and bent my toes up towards my shins and exploded both my talus joints and my ankles, so 2 broken ankles. And so obviously that was a big recovery. Like it was 3 months in a wheelchair and then like Nana walker, walking sticks. Like I had moon boots on for like nearly 6 months. Yeah. It was a big deal. And I think that did then, right when I was like, yes, I need to get better at the extreme riding, that happened and it took me a long time to kind of get over it in my brain. Yep. And I think that then it just always made me a bit shit.
Wow.
At the extreme enduro stuff. And hindsight, is great. And if I had to realise that's how it was going to turn out, I would have probably worked harder to get over it quicker. But that's just not what happened. And it wasn't until my last World Enduro GP was in the northeast of Spain. Northeast of Spain. And that's where my first World Enduro was as well. And my first World Enduro, I was in the deep end. I was riding for this Greek team. It was horrendous and it was wet and I DNF'd. Like I hour'd out on the Sunday, I think. I didn't know anyone in the pits. Like it was such a big, scary thing. Yeah. And then full circle, 5 years later, it was not scary anymore. I did really good in all the tests. Like I rode consistently. I think I got like maybe third or fourth. And that's kind of where I was. I was always seemed to be third or fourth. And knew everyone in the pits. I had the support from the Miglio Yamaha team. John was there with me. We had 2 bikes, so he had a follower vest and he'd, meet me at all the tests with, fresh water and food and change of camelbacks and like all the pro riders had. Yep. I'd done this full circle and it wasn't like scary anymore. But I wish I had have been that comfortable right from the start. Yeah. And I think that if I had have, not had that experience with the broken ankles so early on, maybe that could have changed, but it was what it was.
Do you think it's gotten easier for people, like easier in that way, like if there is training to that? Like at that time when you went over there was it 11?
12 was my first World Enduro GPs.
In 12. Like, you would have been, like, right in the deep end.
Yeah, and, like, I didn't even know that that's what it was going to be like, kind of thing. And a few of the Aussie boys had gone over. So, like, Chris Hollis had gone over with the Husky team when it was, like, the Red Huskies. And he had a pretty bad experience and he ate some bad meat and, in Poland or something. he tells some stories. And, like, Jared Bewley had gone over and Jared was like, honestly, the best training you can do is go tip your bike upside down in an awkward spot and try and get it out of it. And I was like,
thanks.
And like Fudge was real close with like Stefan Merriman. Stefan Merriman obviously did really well at it. Was then the Enduro World Championships, and then it was the World Enduro Championships, and then it was the World Enduro GP. They kept changing
just
the names.
Just to confuse things, eh?
Yeah. And so and he passed on info, but I think even with those people telling me those things, I was not ready for it.
Like even to this stage, it's such a short time. Like 2012 to now, 9 years. Like it's not that long. But social media wasn't really as active as it is now. Like you could have a relationship with one of the riders over there now, like so easily. Oh, what's this? Can you give me some ideas? Back then it was around, but it wasn't like it is today.
Yeah. And I often think, like, it's such a shame I never got to share this with anyone because social media wasn't really a big thing.
Yeah.
And people would have actually known what I was up to if it was now, like Andy Wilkes and who's the other young fella? It's over there now doing really well.
Narrow it down a bit for me.
He is doing really well in the junior class. I can't think of his name all of a sudden.
Jeez, you're going to rack my brain too.
It'll come to me randomly.
Aussie?
Yeah. And so he's never won anything here in Australia because he went from like junior, like a fast junior, just straight over there and doing so well. And these boys have committed to doing so well, and like who cares if they don't do well in their first race? They're going to stick it out. And obviously Matty Phillips went over and won 5 World Championships, and he did fantastically. And then Sanders went over and had like a little crack, but it for whatever reason it didn't work out. And now Milner's going next year. So I think Milner, and even Phillips, like he hadn't won that much in Australia when he went over there. But Milner, he's already got a following here in Australia.
For sure.
So I think it'll be cool for him to go over there because then more Aussies might follow what's going on at the World Enduro GPs. Because 2 years ago, I got Steve Holcomb over
Yes.
to do coaching. And nobody even knew like who he was. And he'd like won five world championships at that point. And, he's a fantastic rider, brilliant bloke, like the nicest person.
Great spokesperson for the sport. Yep.
Yeah, so cool. And it was like, it wasn't hard to sell tickets per se, but they should have sold out in like 5 minutes to this coaching.
Yeah, there's an icon coming to the sport.
Yeah, people were like, "Oh, what is it? What is the World Enduro GPs?" I'm like, "Are you serious?" But so it'll be kind of cool. Hopefully, Milner will drag a lot of Aussie eyes over there.
It amazes me because you're like doing the UFC of motorcycling sport. Like it is hardcore. Like I look at Enduro World Championships, and I just see like the things that you can do on a motorcycle, and it's unfathomable. Like even riding with you, Gemma, I see the things that you do and I'm like, I just don't understand how that can happen.
Thanks.
It's weird. I just don't, and I watch, like, I love the sport and I watch it and I'm like, this should be getting so much more attention because I guess it's because a lot of people that aren't into motorcycling don't realise how difficult it is to do such and such, like climb those tyres or climb that wall, basically.
Yeah, I think it's just that point and shoot and
whine.
Goes.
And it just happens, you've got really good suspension.
Yeah.
But I think you're right with the Milner part. He's got such a following here and I think that'll draw some other eyes to it from here as well. So hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, what were the tracks or what were the events like? Was it, you come from an AORC event or something. When you walk in there that first time, was it just like insane, like mind blowing?
It really was. So my first World Enduro Championship, World Enduro GP experience was this tiny little town in Spain, and the pits were up this like dead end street, and the trucks lined both sides of the road, and just so many people from so many different countries, and like in Australia, we're so many rules around like pit bikes. Like you're not allowed pit bikes at an AORC, but you've got like 3 world champions like tripling on this little like pit bike with no helmets and thongs to like go up and sign on.
Yep.
And so I remember that being like from the beginning, and then walking these tests and just having no idea really what I was in for, and the super test on the Friday night. So it's like it's really like a spectator event kind of thing, and it just works out as your first test for Saturday morning. It's not pole position or anything like that. But I remember it being this big scaffold, and you had to ride up the scaffold and then like jump off. And I was just like, how am I going to do this? And it was so steep and hilly, and it pissed down rain, and it was just this one big rut and just paddling. And I had this kickstart 250, and this Greek guy, like on Saturday afternoon, had like, it was all muddy, and he had like the motor open, and he was playing around in there, and I was just like, what is happening? And then I ended up catching a lift to Portugal with Emily Carlson's brother and dad, because I was like, get me away from these crazy Greeks. They were wild. So I made friends with all the Swedes, which is then how, and then the bike blew up at the test track in Portugal.
Because it's got mud in it.
Yeah, because old mate's been in there fiddling around, and I cracked the shits and stomping back down towards the paddock, and David Knight, I'd actually walked in on his very huge, very nice mechanic in the toilet.
Oh, no.
The week before. And I opened the door, and he was like, oh, and I was like, oh, slammed the door. So that really broke the ice with David Knight. So he was someone who like I made friends with straight away. And then there was this really nice French guy, Fred, and I don't even remember how we became friends, but he ended up like co-owning the car and the bike, like for rego papers, down the track, because he realised I needed help because I wasn't getting it elsewhere. And so apparently, like, if Fred saw me charging down, he might have even given me a lift back to the pits, because the test track was way away from the pits, and this bike had broken, and I was like losing the plot. And then I ended up making friends with this Joachim Johansson, and for the Johansson Swedish team. And then so at that event, we lined up to come back to Italy later in the year and ride with him. So I went to Sweden for 6 weeks before Italy, so that I had got to know him and got to know the bike, and it was actually a Honda team. So obviously I went from running Yamaha here to Honda over there. And then had like an okay ride in Italy. It was crazy hot. It was like 45 degrees, like in the tents, changing tyres in the afternoons and stuff. It was crazy, crazy hot. And starting to make some friends by then, and then broke my back before. That was ankles. Broke my ankles before France, but then the following year broke my back before France. So I never got like a French round in for the first 2 years. But then 2013 went back, and John and I moved over and lived in like the warehouse, like the workshop kind of thing for a few months. And that fell through too, because like long story short, it just didn't work out. And financially, what was agreed upon changed.
How often does that happen, hey?
Literally watching like a broken bar come off of Jeremy Jolie's bike, so the French guy who was like a supported rider. The broken part gets put on my bike, because in my contract I have to pay for broken parts, and then Joachim going like, that's broken, you have to pay for it.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah. And he owned the building that we rented. We worked for this company just up the other end of the workshop, like testing like the connections on like back of TV like cables. Like it was like full sweatshop gig. And whatever we earned happened to be the rent cost. Like it was just dodgy.
The whole thing sounds a rot. And I guess this is where you can step in these days to the people coming through. Like you just had five women at the training camp. If they choose to go over there, these are the pitfalls that you hopefully that now can be educated on. Hey,
yeah, for sure. And like I have those couple of connections. Whereas like when I ended up with this Greek team, like I'd made friends with this Russian photographer at the 6 days in Finland the year before, and she was going to take some photos for this Greek team. And that's how I ended up on this horrid Greek team.
I was going to ask you this, but wow.
Yeah, so it's, a roundabout way for it to happen. And it was a way in, which then let me meet Joachim, which also didn't work out well. But then by that stage, I had enough friends in the pits to do it as a privateer. But I couldn't have gone over and done it as a privateer to begin with. No. So, and now I could pass on these contacts to these other girls who want to have a crack, which is awesome.
Yeah, trusted, vetted people.
Genuinely good people.
It just seems like such a trip to just go over. And what made you actually want to go over there? What was the appeal?
Finland 6 days.
Yeah.
The FIM people come over and we're like, we've got a class in the World Enduro GPs for women, and we have these amazing travel bursaries, which was like 10 grand to help you get over there if you're from another country, another continent. And I was like, oh, look, I'm finishing my law degree. I'm just going to go get a job. We just bought a house. So we'd signed the paperwork just before I left for Finland. The day I got back was like the last day we could pull out and just lose like our $5 grand deposit or whatever it was, a 10 grand deposit. I was like, I promised John, I promised John I'd go get a job and I would help pay for this house. So I got back from Finland. We went and looked at the house and John's like, are we doing this? Like, are you committed? And I was like, yeah. Like, this is what I want. Like, I'm in. Let's do this.
Yeah.
And then I went down to the Adb Awards, which used to be a really amazing thing. So end of every year, all of the different disciplines would get together in Sydney at this U-Butte event and have the best time. So went down to the Adb Awards, got on it with everyone, talked about World Enduro GPs. I didn't even know. Got back home and I was like, Johnny, I'm going to Europe. The house is yours.
Yeah.
He was like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, that's an interesting conversation.
Yeah. Well, back then, I just did what I wanted.
Yeah.
And John was pretty amazing and sort of dealt with it. We're a bit more of a team these days.
Yeah. But that was your... I said at the start, sometimes it can be a selfish pursuit. And, you've got a good team though. But it can be, hey, like, no matter who it is. Man, that's insane. So that's why you went?
Yeah, and then so I went over and like I got on a plane and I spent my 22nd birthday in the air by myself. I actually had a cry at the airport. I was like, John, what am I doing? He got on this plane and went and met this Greek team and it was just a shit show from the beginning, but I've already kind of explained that. And it was an eye-opener. It was an amazing experience and it showed me that I'd done a bad job in Spain and Portugal, but there was so much room for improvement.
Yeah, yep.
And then I went back to Italy and it was a lot better. Hurt myself before France, moved over to Sweden. I guess did Spain and Portugal, went pretty good. Romania, actually, was my favourite World Enduro GPs ever. It was so good. And that was the third round. And that's when we fell out, actually, with Joachim. Yep. It was like, enough's enough. Like, you're totally mistreating us. And, like, it was a mad power imbalance because of we worked for him, we lived for him, we rode for him.
Sure.
It was crazy, yeah. Yep. So, yeah, I think we were working... And he called us in for a meeting and he told us what our next bill was. And we was like, that's bullshit, mate. We're out. So we went back to work and those employers were like, look, we get mad like freight prices, so we'll send all your shit back to Australia for you.
Yep.
And then Pelly and Anne Granquist, so Stefan Granquist's parents, we rang them and we're like, can we come to your house? So we got on a train. Went to their house and hung out with them for a couple of days and then flew to Romania and did my last round with Joachim in Romania. And it was a bit shit because obviously tensions were a bit high, but it was an amazing actual track. It was so much fun. And there was like big fat gypsy weddings at every church and hotel that Saturday night. Every single hotel that all of the riders were at, and it was just like doof, 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 until like 3 a.m, so nobody got any sleep, but at least it was all even.
Yeah, everyone's on the same page.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then we went home and raced the 4-day in WA.
Yep.
Come back to Australia, raced the 4-day in WA, and then broke my ankles, and then missed the French round, which would have been my last round with Joachim, but
missed it completely.
Missed it completely.
When did obviously you had Yamaha support a long time.
Mm-hmm.
When you went over as a privateer, did you get Yamaha support over there, or how did that work? Because obviously about 2014, 15 we're talking about. When did you go to doing your own thing and that over there?
So to begin with, I didn't really even get any help with contacts or anything, because I don't even know if I tried, though, to be fair. I just was like, I was going to Worlds. I found a way.
This is happening.
Yep. Yeah, and then I rode on the Honda team and Yamaha, which is crazy when I think about it. They were like, oh, we don't care what you do in Europe. You can ride whatever you want in Europe. Like, I was supported by Yamaha Motor Australia, and they would pay me for Aussie wins, and then I would spend that money to go race a Honda at the Worlds. It was super weird, but it was what it was.
Yeah.
And then 2014, as a privateer, I think that's when we had the Australian Endurocross Series. And so I was down at one of the last round one of the years.
That was huge.
At Calder Park. near the airport in Melbourne.
Oh,
Something like that. Yeah. Anyway, the Melbourne round. It was the final round, and Fox had, forget his name, something. I think Pierre. Let's go with that because it's French.
Not trying to judge, but yeah.
No, and he was like the Fox dude in Europe, and I've kind of made this. He started like endurocross in Europe. He had this. Yep. Yeah, it was a long time ago, and I have a bad memory. A lot of head knocks. Okay, a lot of head knocks.
Well, yeah.
And I was talking about that last night. That's why I brought it up. But
yeah, you have.
So I finally made a bit of a connection with Yamaha Europe and Fox Europe.
Mm-hmm.
So I did get a bit of support over there, and I went through a shop in France and got like a good deal on a bike, so that when I sold it, I didn't lose money. So yeah, over in Europe, but I did get a personal loan to buy it. So
wow.
the interest cost me a bit.
Yeah. Yep.
Thanks, John.
The worker at the time.
Yeah. So yeah, I had a relationship with Europe, Fox and Yamaha by the end, but it was a bit of a slog to get there.
Wow, I just thought it was, like, I think this is the thing too, outside. When you're outside it, you look at it and think, oh yeah, you're on your magic carpet ride, you're over and racing in the world thing, and there's so much struggle in it, hey?
Yeah, and it's like, I'm glad you brought that up, because the biggest thorn in my side, and John's always like, just let it go, Gemma.
Yeah.
Is like people going, oh, you're so lucky.
Yeah, it's right.
and it was always like that when I raced. And it was from the boys that I raced juniors with.
Really?
And they would be like, oh, you're so lucky, your dad does everything for you. And it's like, mate, you had the same opportunities, but you chose to get a job, you chose to buy a house, you chose to buy a car, you chose to have money in your bank. Mm-hmm. Up until I was 30, I'd have $2 in my bank at a time. And then all of a sudden I'd get $2,000, and then I'd make that last to do what I need to do. And then I'd be back down to 20 cents. Yep. And then I'd get a bit more money. And that's how I've always lived. And I was happy because I got to do what I wanted to do, but that was the sacrifice I was willing to make. And they weren't. So they're not allowed to say, like, you're lucky. And now with what I'm doing, like, and I don't disagree that I'm lucky, because I'm thankful every day that I get to make money the way I make money now. It's my job, but it's still a job. Like,
for sure.
And again, anyone has the opportunity that I have had. It's just, I just keep pushing and working and making connections. And this is something I got from Dad, but take every opportunity, and that's how I've always lived my life. Just take every opportunity. I get mad FOMO, burn the candles at both ends, because I don't want to miss out on anything. No. And another motto of mine has always been, the more you do now, the less you have to do later.
Yep.
And that's one that I definitely tell the kids at school. Come on, guys. Get this work done, and then we can go play. Can't be the other way.
That's a reward, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Instead of then trying to have fun time thinking, oh my God, I've got work to do. Oh my God, I've got work to do.
Yep.
But now I think that I'm in a position, because I'm so busy all the time, that I've actually consciously had to say, why do today what I can put off till tomorrow? Because the work never ends. And so I'm always like, I'll just get that done. I'll just get that done. I'll just get that done. And then you just never, ever, ever stop. Yep. And that's something that John's like, I think I'm busy. John has taken being busy to like this whole new level. But it's John's turn. Yep. Like, I had my years of him supporting me. Now, like, we've made a deal. It's my turn to like support him and what he's up to. So he's allowed to be this busy. But I am still a little bit like, you do have to have a day off every now and then, though. And that's something that we're trying to do together, because it's not always the more you do now, the less you have to do later, because there's always more work to do.
Stuff.
Yeah.
And that's something that, like, I'm conscious about as well as a business owner. I look at it and it doesn't stop, whether it be social media, whether you're always on. Hey, it's very hard to turn that off.
Yeah, and you can always do more.
You can always do more.
And like, you'd have people asking you to do stuff all the time, and it's so easy to say yes.
Yeah. And you want to say yes. Like, that's the thing.
Don't want to miss out.
You don't want to miss out. And every opportunity, not every opportunity, but most opportunities lead to something else too. Mm-hmm. You turn that one off, you don't know what else you're missing out on. And I'm sure you've seen that across the layers as well, with people that just miss out on things because they've said no to something.
100%. And it's things now, like, as a 32-year-old, that when I was 22, I went and did something for free, and I learnt something, and I met somebody, and now it's come around full circle, and I'm like, oh wow, I'm so glad I did that 10 years ago. And
and it's such a reward for a rewarding thing to say to somebody too, like, doing something for free, like, it's something you've got to do. There's so many people, it's just like, oh, you've got to charge everything. in especially both our lines of what we do for work, sometimes you just got to do it. This is it. And at some point, it'll turn around. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But, you know what I mean? It's not, you don't do it because of that, but sometimes it's just the way it works, isn't it?
Yeah, and I definitely, as a coach, in the beginning, I went and tagged along with as many people as I could and helped out for free.
Yep.
And to be fair, in the beginning, I wouldn't have been worth money.
That's the other thing.
I went and I learned what to do,
Yep.
and I learned what not to do, and I learned how to manage groups of riders. I think that's the hardest thing about coaching. A one-on-one, it's one person. But if you've got a group of 10 riders, managing kids on motorcycles,
it's insane.
that's a whole skill in itself.
Yep.
And so that's definitely something that going and doing freebies I learned. And now I'm at a point where you can't do something for nothing, because you'll always be doing something for nothing.
You lose the value in yourself.
Yeah, but at the same time, I never want to be greedy.
Yep.
And so, you do those little, the mates rates and the sneaky deals, but you don't tell anyone because, where does the precedent?
Yeah.
Like you said, that precedent, where does it end? Yeah.
Yes, yep.
And I have worked really, really hard, and I feel like I've done my share of freebies, but there will always be more freebies.
Yeah. and Jemma Wilson is now a expert motorcycle racer, rider trainer, public speaker. There's a whole lot of different things in the bow that, your work isn't just one sort of field. It's very hard to do that. And, what do I charge for this? How do I charge that? And stuff like that. I guess that's a hard thing too,
Yeah, and I have no idea what other coaches charge, for a one-on-one.
Yep.
But I personally know that I'm happy to go to school, and as a teacher, as a relief teacher, which we're a dime a dozen.
Right.
I have no special skills. I did a 9-month course to be a relief teacher. And I go and I get paid X amount of dollars. I'm happy to get paid that for a day's work. So that's what I charge for my coaching.
That's my value.
Yeah, yep. and people are like, well, you could charge more because you're always booked. And it's yeah, but I don't want to be greedy. I want it to be affordable. I want families to be able to afford to come and do a day's riding with me together and learn so much and have this great experience. Why would I charge more if that's what I'm happy earning?
I totally understand it, and that's it's a thing I appreciate, because everyone capitalizes on something, and if you know your value, that's my value, and that's how I set my value. You know? And it's an interesting thing.
Yeah, and I really enjoy the way that I work, and I have, like you said, I do so many different little things, and then a change is as good as a holiday.
For sure.
So people are often like, oh my gosh, and then you go to school as well, and I'm yeah, but when I go to school, it's a day off from my business.
Yeah.
I'm forced to not be on my computer. I'm forced to interact with cool young people and talk to teachers and get outside of my little blinkered office, moto world, and working by myself, for myself. So it's actually, I think it's a really healthy thing for me to get out and go to school.
2005 to 2021, how's the moto world changed?
I think it's changed a lot, and it's stayed the same a lot.
Okay.
Obviously from the female perspective, it's changed a lot.
Amazing amount.
It used to be there was that tiny little handful of us women, and now so many girls are and so many women, 50-year-old women are I want to come and learn how to ride a motorbike. I'm okay, come and do it. Yeah. It's so much less of a, oh my God, that's a female. It's, there's a person riding a motorcycle, which is awesome. And I think that's the goal, to not do the double take when you see a chick cruise past you on the highway on a motorbike. Oh, look, there's a person riding a motorbike. Yep. And that's the goal for me. But then the industry itself as a whole, we can be a little bit of a stagnant industry.
Okay.
Where I think, the same people are in the same roles and they expect things to stay the same, but the whole world's changing.
Right.
And the motorcycle industry needs to keep up a little bit. But then in saying that, we also have some amazing companies and brands who, and companies are just lots of people.
That's all a company is.
Yeah. So it's so some companies have some really wonderful people who get that the world's changing and the motorcycle industry needs to keep up, and they are doing amazing things to make that happen. And when I say that, I think Transmoto, I think Husky, I think MX Store, and they are 2005. Husky wasn't Husky; it was completely different.
Yep.
MX Store didn't exist. I think they have a 10 years-ish, under 10 years probably for MX Store, and Transmoto was, if it existed at all, it was a magazine.
It wasn't in its shape it is today.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that and that's I think why they are at the forefront, because they haven't been around for as long, so they're happy to change kind of thing and fit in with the current current situation. And I think what the current thing is, it's lifestyle. Motorcycling is a lifestyle. And there are 3 companies that come to mind of like, it doesn't matter who you are, what bike you have, come and join in on motorcycling.
Dust Hustle.
Yeah, and Dust Hustle, exactly. Like, Dust Hustle definitely wasn't around 2005. No. Like what Hewan has done with this completely just outside of anything Australia's ever done concept and what he's turned it into, and the people that congregate and be at the same track doing the same thing, having the same fun time, but they are completely from polar opposite sides of motorcycling.
It's like a modular thing. Like it's just everywhere, to culminate into one event. It's pretty cool. Yeah,
and it is. So that's definitely 4 different companies, and it's the people running those companies, Dust Hustle's Ella Speed, but Dust Hustle's Hewan's baby. Like it's so cool, and I love that side of motorcycling, and I love what I do now because when I raced, I lived in the race bubble, and I didn't know that there was anything outside of racing. And then when I quit, I'd had been running the Fox Women's Off-Road Campouts for a bit, and I put more effort and time into them, and then I was like, oh my gosh, there's this total opportunity for maybe like a ride day. So then I started running the Fox Women's Ride Day, and I would get I got 50 people the first year. And then, the event that I ran was not as polished. It was a great experience, but it wasn't what it is today. And then the next year it was 60 people. And then the next year it was 120. And then this year it was 150. So we had MX Farm to ourselves and 150 women from literal first-time riders to Taylor McCutcheon's, who's chucking whips over the triple. Yep. And everything in between. And my little sister, Bicky, 5, she's 5 on the electric Husky balance bike, cruising around the kids track to 62-year-old women, and insane. Everything in between. And it's so cool. But even 5 years ago, I had 50 girls. It's changed so much.
And I don't want to embarrass you at all here or talk about it, but the OBAs and the OAMs and that. I said this to a conversation with someone a while ago that what you've done for women in motorcycling in Australia, and as a competitor, you deserve one of those.
Thanks.
Just honestly, for our senior events from day one, and our senior event that we just filmed in June, with we have 230?
230, yeah.
230 people from day one to that. You've brought, it's not single-handedly, but pretty close to those people into the sport, and that's insane to grow a sport like that and obviously give back to the sport. It's something that should be commended. So, so didn't want to bring that up, but I did say it to someone because I honestly genuinely believe it. I think you've done that yourself.
Thanks.
So,
No, and I genuinely enjoy what I'm doing, and I love it, and I think that comes across, and I think that's why they are successful. And the hardest thing about running motorcycle events for women is getting them through the front gate. Once they're there, they're like, oh, this is amazing. But getting them there, it's not for me. I'm too slow. I'm not good enough yet. I'm embarrassed. I've never ridden in public. I've heard that one a few times before. And it's starting to catch on, though. That ball's rolling where enough girls have done it to tell other girls that it's not like that at all. And I've, been on the 5-time ISD World Championship winning team, but you meet me, I don't come across as a professional. I'm very approachable, and and I can teach to all levels. I can teach someone who's first timer, and I can teach a young athlete who wants to be a world champion. And I think that's why my stuff has been successful, because I'm approachable. Yep. Yeah. It I love what I do.
yeah. Genuinely, you generally have a passion for it. If you didn't have a passion for it, you couldn't put on that sort of day.
Yeah. And when people ask, how long are you going to do this for? I'm like, the day that I'm not trying to be better is the day I quit. Because obviously I don't care anymore. Yeah. I'm not, if I'm like, my event's good as it is, I don't need to add anything, I don't need to make it better, then it's time to move on.
There's always something.
Yeah, because there's always something. I can make a better customer experience.
As a rider, you're riding a fair bit and coaching. Do you think your technique's better now than what you were when you're racing?
Yes.
Really?
So much. And so when I go trail riding with the boys, so like we'll do Tuesday rides with the boys from Village Bicycle and Young Henry's, and like it's a good crew. And my husband, so like John has never been a rider, but now that I do Dust Tussles and made friends with all these amazing people from Dust Tussles, it's fun to go riding. It's not a job for John anymore.
It's actually enjoyable.
Yeah. And I'll be riding along and I'll be like using my body to like find traction and like thinking about motorcycling in a way that when I was racing, I was like,
yep.
Yeah. And obviously there was more skill than that, but
your mind's so full, isn't it?
Yeah. From coaching so consistently and going through those techniques so much and, you know, and getting asked questions. So like I coach at least a couple of days a week, and every now and then someone will be like, okay, so like, what are you doing with your, you know, your weight in this situation? And I'm like, give me a second. Like, let me try it. I'll tell you.
Yep.
I'm not sure. But then I've had to think about it and I'm like, oh my gosh, in that scenario, I'm doing this with my weight. So then when I find myself in that scenario out in the bush on a Tuesday ride, I don't have to wing it. I know exactly what I should be doing, which I think when I raced, I was busy trying to go fast.
Yeah, that makes sense. So your technique's so... Because I thought that might be the case because you've slowed things down to push things forward, I guess. Yeah,
and so a little part of me is like, oh, geez, I wouldn't mind going and like lining up again and just seeing. But then I think about it and I'm like, oh.
Drive back to Dungog.
Yeah. But I don't have that intensity now either.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think like, you know, my technique's better, but I haven't been, training for that intensity. So I don't think I would be better in the long run, but my technique is better.
So your observation, everything that you do around it would be better. Yeah. Relationships, like your relationships with brands are always very long term. How have you managed that?
And again, this is like, it was a real organic thing. And somewhere along the line, I realized that all of my sponsors had become friends.
Yeah. Okay.
And that is how I do things. And it's not a conscious thing, but like I'm working with someone, we both want the same thing. That's why I'm working with them. We're both trying to promote what we do, our industry, you know, their industry, my industry.
It's the same thing. Yep.
Yeah. And I think for a long time, like I was working with a couple of people where it was pushing shit uphill. And I was like, why is it like this? Like we are literally trying to achieve the same thing. And there's all these opportunities for you to promote me, which will in turn promote you, and you're not taking them. And now, especially now, you know, like working with Husqvarna, they are so onto it. Like it's so easy to work with them. We're so working for the same goal. You know, I trust them, they trust me. I don't ask for anything I don't need.
Yep.
You know, it's such a brilliant relationship, and I honestly wish that I had have been with Husky like for a year or two racing, because the bikes, I feel that I can do things on the Huskies that I wouldn't have tried on the Yamaha. But in saying that, Husky support me so well as this lifestyle brand.
Yep.
You know, and someone who promotes the lifestyle of riding motorcycles. But Yamaha supported me as a racer, and no one else was going to support me the way Yamaha did as a racer.
So it fitted the time.
It fitted the time.
Yep.
So yeah. So I'm so thankful to Yamaha because they allowed me to do all the cool shit that I did racing. But I'm so thankful to Husky now and the amazing relationship that we have. And it helps that Rosie Lalonde, we raced together. We raced a few 4 days together, AORCs together. Like she's been at 6 days that I've raced. Like she was in Finland, running around through the mud, giving us camelbacks and
just part of it, hey?
Yeah, part of it. And she understands the industry so well, and she is the hardest body worker.
Yep.
And she loves what she does, and the passion that she has for it comes across in what she does. So yeah, we're a great team. So that makes working with Husky like just a beautiful experience.
It's a no-brainer. Like you put the two of you got the two together. It just makes sense, doesn't it? Like you go to the event and you see it. Like when Rosie's there and yourself are there working alongside each other.
Yeah.
And Rosie's not working at that time, but it's still a related thing.
She's got a Husky
hat on.
Yeah.
You see it and like it just works, and you can see why the events work so well.
Yeah, and before Rosie it was Alana.
Yep.
And I didn't know Alana before I started working with Husky.
Right.
And we spent some time together in New Zealand. I went over and coached at the Queens of Dirt. So they had 150 chicks at this coaching trail ride event, and I went over and coached. It was just a one-day thing near at Taupo. It was really, really cool. And I stayed in the house with Rosie, one of the chicks over there that was like running the event, and Alana. So I met Alana for the first time. And if anyone knows Alana, she's not really a morning person.
Really?
No. And I'm a bit chipper.
Right.
So
Uh-oh.
barge into her and Rosie's room. Hello, world.
Yep.
She's like, you're chipper, aren't you?
Awesome.
But we got on super well as well, and now we work together on the Motorcycling Australia Women in Motorcycling Committee, and that's been really cool to go from working with her as like partner in a brand to working with her in a volunteer. In like a volunteer position, which has been really awesome and great to continue that relationship, because it would have been a shame if she went to Ducati and I never had anything to do with her ever again.
Yeah. AWIM. That's
Yes.
what it is. How did that come about? How tied in to that are you? Can you tell me about it a bit?
So years and years ago, the Motorcycling Australia had a women's committee. So they've got like a trials subcommittee, a enduro subcommittee, a road race subcommittee, and it's people in that discipline helping make decisions and helping guide Motorcycling Australia in what should and shouldn't happen in their sport, because obviously they're the experts in their discipline. And so years ago, we had a women's committee, and somewhere along the line, it was decided that it wasn't needed. Women didn't need their own committee. There was no need for women to push women in motorcycling. And so whatever reason, that shut down. And then probably about at least maybe beginning of 2019, we started up, or Motorcycling Australia started up another women's committee. And it was myself, a chick from WA, like a couple chicks from Victoria, and then like someone would leave, someone else would come in, someone else would leave, someone else would come in, and it was a very changeable group, which was a bit of a shame, because we'd just find a little bit of traction and then someone would leave, because it's a volunteer position. So, and we weren't getting to meet in person. It was, all via Zoom. But we did actually meet once down in Sydney. We did a Women Leaders in Sport conference.
Right.
And that was amazing. It was with Football Australia, all those women from Football Australia, and the facilitator is such an amazing woman, and that was really, really cool. And that was a cool experience for me. But we lost all of those women in the committee after that, except for me. But now we're lucky enough to have had myself. Alana is our new head, our new chair, and she's fantastic because she gets shit done.
For sure.
So Alana's chair, and then there's myself, Kate Peck, who,
is everywhere.
Yeah. And, has her little fingers in so many different motorcycle pies. And she's such a, enthusiastic person, and she comes across, she's great at delivering what she wants to deliver.
And she rides.
She's
part of it.
Yeah. And then Caitlyn Hines, who worked at Motorcycling Australia for a while, and she's in branding and marketing. And if you've watched any of the AORC recaps, it would be her on the microphone, because even though she left Motorcycling Australia, she was still contracted to go and help with the media at the AORC
events.
And Ricky Dryden, who works at Motorcycling Australia. So that's great to have someone in the office, because when things get a little bit tough volunteer position, she can use some of Motorcycling Australia's time to, and resources to make shit happen, which is we very much need that person in Motorcycling Australia.
Plus, it gives you that that's our governing body still.
Yeah.
It gives you that direct channel, doesn't it?
Exactly, yeah. So that's it. So since we've had us five, we have achieved a lot, and we've got a lot done, considering that most of it's been in lockdown, and we've never met in person, all five of us. And
really?
Yeah, and so for so many months, because I'm the only one in Queensland, 2 girls in Sydney, 2 girls in Melbourne, we'd do our monthly Zoom catch-ups, and they'd be like, it's like Groundhog Day.
They've sat in the
I
same
hate this
spot.
so much. And I'm like, I've been here, I've done this,
I've been
I've done
5
that.
days this week.
Yeah, I'm just going to dinner now because pubs are open. I tried not to rub it in, but
that's how life is.
Just talking about my life rubbed it in.
Yep.
So we definitely this year, I feel we lost a little bit of fire because it was so disheartening for the 4 down there. But in saying that, we still achieved so much that we won FIM's Women in Sport, Women in Motorcycling's award for the country that has done the most in 2021, which was pretty awesome. So we got recognised at Monaco at the FIM World Championships
major
Awards.
awards night.
Which is awesome. And a few of those initiatives, we slogged it out, and we spent a lot of volunteer hours doing some things, which I'm really proud of, and I know the other girls are as well. So it was cool to be recognised.
How like, what do you do part of it? I know I've seen you've done all the interviews with different riders and different parts of people within the industry. Obviously, Alana, Emma McFerrin last week. What does the committee do?
So I guess our main goal is to promote women in the sport, because for the last decade, as women in motorcycling have grown and we have some amazing athletes, but women just don't get the recognition. And instead of being like, and I've just been arguing with the Australian Off-Road Championships and Motorcycling Australia for years about why do you not have the fastest, like, you know, the girl who won the championship on the poster. You have the guy who won E1, E2, E3, EJ. Why not EW?
Yep.
Like, and when I was a racer, I felt a little bit weird about it because I was like promoting myself because, you know, some of the years I won. But since quitting, I'm like, well, I'm clearly not trying to self-promote anymore. I'm trying to promote women. So I've been more vocal, and they're like, we just don't have the budget. Well, find it.
And how hard is it?
You know, you do a recap video and there is not a second of a female riding a motorcycle. How are you going to get more women into motorcycling if there's not even a second of a female?
You don't even know they're there.
They don't even know they're
By the
there.
video, yep.
Yeah, so like girls are going to be watching it and be like, that'd be cool, but obviously women don't do it. Like, it's so easy to achieve something if you can see it being achieved.
Yep. And you've argued that point.
Oh, so much. Yep. So much. And they're like, well, help me find the budget. Like, it's not my job, but I will.
Yeah. And you're there.
Yeah, you're already there.
Like, you're filming. You know?
Yeah. Or they're like, well, you know, we contract to so-and-so. Yeah, but you're paying the bills. So you make them deliver what you want. Yeah. And it includes women.
Yeah. There's a brief. I've seen it. I've seen the Jemma Wilson brief. There's a brief.
There's a brief.
But there is. That's how it should be.
Yep. Yeah. And so that's definitely something that I'm super passionate about, which is why I'm lucky enough to be doing the interviews. Obviously, like, Kate has a lot more interview experience. But it's something that I was like, I'm very passionate about, and it's a great learning opportunity for me interviewing people. Like, I've been interviewed a lot. I've got the opportunity to interview, so I'm getting better at that, which is cool. Another skill to have. And I get to talk to some awesome women, and not just racers. So, you know, we've interviewed a couple of racers, but predominantly it's been, you know, like adventure riders and, you know, people involved in committees or people that volunteer, and women, I should say, that volunteer. And, like, you know, this chick who rode solo across the Simpson Desert in 9 hours, like, and just because she wanted to. Like, okay, cool. Like, you do you.
Yeah, that's the thing. You go do it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, and sometimes I do feel like, oh, God, it's this other job that I have to do. Why did I put my hand up for this? And then as soon as I start, you know, because it's like the organising and liaising to try and make a time where we're both available, and stuff can be a bit difficult sometimes. But once I start talking to these girls, I'm like, oh, my gosh, this is my job. How good is this? Well, this is my volunteer position. How good is this? And I'm very lucky to do it.
It really is. And you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
I've watched a few. You're doing a good job. Like, it's hard to interview someone when it's not your thing. You know?
Yeah, and there's that stun mullet moment. And like, whenever I stop talking, you're ready with your next one. I'm like, he's good at this. I need to be like
thank
this.
You. I don't feel good at it. I tell you, because like we've known each other long enough. It's like I don't do this. Like, I'm not used to this camera stuff. Like, now 58 episodes in, it feels a bit more relaxed. But at the start, I'm like, yeah, stun mullet describes it pretty damn good, because you're like a deer in headlights. Like, I was lucky at the start because I had like Ewan and that pretty close to the start, and it's just talking with friends, and it just makes it easier from day one.
Yeah, and you already have that background knowledge, so like questions to fall back on.
Yeah, that helps.
Yeah. But outside of the interviews and the like promoting women in the sport, we have also done up a heap of different documents and guidelines to try and help from like an administrative point of view to get more women involved. Yep. So unfortunately, unfortunately some clubs and you know, like promoters are like, well, we put a women's class in and we got 4 entries, so we're not going to bother with that again. And it's just that, but did you give time, like the women, time to realise that they had a class? Did you promote that there was a women's class? Did you invite the women? Like, and you just got to put in that little bit of extra effort. And definitely, like at my events in the beginning, you know, I had to drag the women.
Was it like that?
Yeah, and I had to like make them feel so welcome and answer some questions that, you know, I just thought were common knowledge, but they're not. They're not common knowledge. They're common knowledge for me because I've been to motorcycle events for years. But if you've never been to something, you know, and I felt a bit patronising, but it wasn't patronising. It was just giving all the information that was required. And so we've done up some guidelines for clubs and promoters to kind of understand what they need to do to get more women involved, and to kind of set some parameters for how things have worked. And we've done some like some case studies of clubs and promoters who have done a really good job and how that worked, and some wise words from those people and things. We also did a mentorship guideline,
right?
To try and get more women who are interested to learn stuff from women, but also like good dudes in the industry. Right. So it's not just a women's thing, that one. The mentorship program is designed to, anyone who knows stuff to pass on what they know to younger people or interested people. And we also did a dress code guideline. So like F1 and whatever else. So I think supercars don't have grid girls anymore.
Yeah, it's been taken. I know F1, definitely. And I think a few others too. But.
And so like, ASBK is still like grid girls, and so we decided that we'd put up some guidelines, and this one was one that I wasn't super involved with, and it wasn't because I wasn't for or against it. It was just something I hadn't even thought about. I was just like, grid girls are just grid girls, like we have them, we just have them, and I hadn't really even thought about it. But Kate and Ricky and Alana made that one happen, and they did they did a really good job with it. And I thought it was going to be like a suggestion, but it's an actual guideline. So no more grid girls.
So they're like deleted or dress code?
So dress code. So you can have, and I think, and it in a way it does take away from the sport. So especially if you've got women. So I was like, I never really thought about it. But at the World Enduro GPs, you'd have the grid girls at the start line every morning, and fantastic looking women, and we roll up on our dirt bikes, fully kitted up, pump bags, camelbacks, all the gear, and they're just like, hi. We're like, oh, good morning, how are you? Like, and it kind of takes away from us being women in the sport, because they're actually getting more media attention and focus than what we are, and we're out there doing it. So that was an interesting one, like I think for me, because I hadn't even thought about it, and then I was like, yeah, it makes sense. Like, why is it needed? Why is it necessary to have boobs and butts
at the sport?
Yeah, because let's not focus on the boobs and butts. Let's focus on the guy or girl on the line that's about to go race the race.
Yep.
So yeah, that was an interesting one, and I think we did. There was a couple other ones as well, but they were the three like big ones, main ones that we spent a lot of time on.
It's huge, eh?
Yeah.
Like it's a big program to try and, it's a big ship to turn.
Yes.
The ship's been going one way for a long time, so there's a lot obviously that happens behind the scenes. So you've got a good team.
Yeah, it is a really good team. Yeah, and it's cool because like Kate's just had a baby. Like everyone gets busy, and I'll have a big event on and just be like, look, I'm kind of out for this month. I don't have time, but there's always people picking up slack and helping one another out, and we make a really good team. It's been a nice experience, and I'm not used to working with anybody else.
Yeah, how's that go?
Yeah, and usually I go, I want to put an event on. I want it to be this date. I want it to be this many people. I'm setting up the entries, and it's happening. I don't have to talk to anybody.
Yeah, it's just done. You've got your supporters.
Yeah.
That's how it's going to be.
Yeah, I make a phone call or two, and I'm good to go. But, it's just letting them know what my plan is. It's not, I don't have to liaise with anyone about anything. So I think that's been a really steep learning curve for me, being like, I have to run this by people, and I have to get input, and we need to have a vote.
That'd be weird. Yeah, I wouldn't think of that too much until you're actually in that position,
Yeah.
It's a hard one.
And it definitely makes the process like longer.
Yes. Yeah.
But also sometimes I'm like, oh shit, I shouldn't have done that way. When it's just me.
Yep.
And at least I get the opportunity to talk it through with somebody, and
you get a checkpoint, don't you?
Yeah, and because I can often be like, yep, I'm going to make that happen. And then a day later it's on, and I'm like, oh, I should have spent a little bit more time on that.
That's, and hearing you, that happens. Sorry to people that are probably listening to that probably thought that we'd be just talking Gemma Wilson racing as well, because I was really interested in the Gemma Wilson business and things like that as well. So that's all right with you, talking more about after race stuff as well, yeah?
Yeah, I think racing feels like a lifetime ago already. Like it's this thing that happened.
It's a huge part of your life, but I'm just so intrigued of how Gemma Wilson's a marketer. Like, you're a business owner, a marketer, a public speaker. How did you market yourself?
It's been trial and error.
Really?
Yeah, I wish that I knew more, and over Christmas, it seems to be the time that I, download some audiobooks and take some notes and try to think about what I'm going to do better for the next year, because it seems to be the one aspect of what I do that I'm always reactive, not proactive with it. And every year I promise myself that it's going to be better, and every year it does get better, but still not good enough.
Right.
I have a weird relationship with it too. Like, I enjoy it, but it's also all this time taken up that's with something that I'm not passionate about. But if you don't market it, what I do, then I have got nothing to be passionate about.
Yep.
Yeah, so like my little brother is the most alternative little fella. He's got a mustache that he twirls and no shoe wearing, vegan, couple degrees, afro. He lives in Tassie at the moment. He got in his car last Christmas and drove down to Tassie, and him and his girlfriend lived in a car for 2 months before they got an apartment.
That's cool.
And so he's got an architectural degree. He was living in a van in the car park in San Francisco University when COVID happened, studying environmental science. But he obviously got on a plane and come home when COVID happened, and kind of floated around for a little bit and then made his way down to Tassie. Now he's studying down there. And for one of his electives, he was like, oh, these are my choices. What should I do? And one of the choices was marketing. And he's a very, like, anti-consumerism, super alternative kid and, young man. He's 25. And I was like, even if you are so passionate about not marketing, you can't tell people about it if you don't know how to market.
You need to market, be an anti-market.
Yeah. And I was like, you don't have to do it, obviously. Like, it's your choice. But I would choose marketing. Yeah. And I don't think he did. But yeah, and so for me, I'm aware that it's a hole in what I do, and I'm slowly getting better at it. And like technology and me, I often want to throw my computer out the window. Like, everything works until it doesn't with technology, isn't it? But I'm really happy with this new relationship that I've got with Smith Studio and Gimpy. He's a cool fella, and he's given me some great ideas. I've got like a secret little plan for something that I don't want to tell anyone about until it happens. And I'm just trying to think outside the box because, again, like I said, motorcycling industry can be quite stale, and I don't just want to do the same things. Like when I first started the coaching, I ran like open coaching, Jemma Wilson open coaching, and it was just your standard motocross off-road coaching event. And I realised, like, why am I slogging my guts out to convince people that as a female I can coach dudes as well and juniors as well and do the standard coaching when I've got this special little niche that's amazing, and I'm sick of slogging it out telling people I'm worth it, because that's what I had to do for 10 years as a racer. Yeah. Why don't I just create opportunities for people that want them instead of convincing them to come? And it's a saturated market. Like, everybody already does open coaching. Like, every coach in Queensland, Southeast Queensland, like, there are so many coaches. And it's growing by the day. Yeah, and they all do a brilliant job, and they all, coach slightly differently, so different riders are going to like different coaches, and I think that's a brilliant thing. The more coaches there are, the more coaching that will happen, and everyone will be a better rider. But I don't just want to do the same thing. So I'm always thinking, like, how can I promote motorcycling to mainstream? Yeah. Because we live in this bubble, and there's only so much money and resources. And if I can help bring people from outside the sport into it, and show how cool motorcycling is and how it's not just for hooligans. Yeah. Motorcycling is for everybody. Yeah, it's working class folk, you know, and everything in between. Yeah, you know? And families and kids and old people and everyone can enjoy motorcycling in some way. Then it's just going to grow the industry. Yeah. And years ago I was down at Unifilter head office, like down talking to Miles, and on his wall he's got posters of Stephen Gall posing with Playboys, like Playboy bunnies. Really? Like, and because that's, it used to be so much bigger, and there used to be all this outside of the industry money in motorcycling, and that era of riders, like, made good money from it. Yeah. And it's just that doesn't exist anymore. And I think, like, the GFC changed everything back in, like, 2008, which was right as I was heading in to it. Great timing. Yeah. So I didn't see the world of motorcycling before that, so I don't know any different. Yep. I've grown up when we've been very short resourced. And that's why I was 30 and didn't have a cent to my name. Yeah. Oh, you got prize money. Yeah. Trophy?
Yeah, I know.
Some tacky ones too. Some nice ones as well.
They got good dust on them?
Yeah, great dust collectors. So many of them, I've just peeled the plaques off and got them just in a plastic bag and threw the trophies out.
Did you?
But they're like, like the World Championship ones and like the, Australian Championships. Like I've got them. And my first ever World Championship trophy, it was in St. Hubert in Belgium. It's the hunting capital of Belgium. And it's a giant hog. My first ever World Championship trophy was a hog.
Does your brother would be happy? What do you do with that?
Dust collector.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I think that's something that I'm really trying, and that's the public speaking side of things. Public speaking allows me to go into, like the Queensland Outdoor Recreation Awards a couple of years ago. I did a talk for them, and it was, like a Queensland government like branch kind of thing, and we had different people from all different outdoor recreation things and educational, and that was really cool to stand up and tell them about motorcycling and my story and women in the sport and just promoting getting outdoors. It was a great fit without being motorcycling.
Yep.
And then, International Women's Week is kind of my public speaking week of the year. And
time to shine.
Yeah. And so the different councils and, going into a big like convention centre and talking to a couple hundred school age through to, Devonshire tea-aged women and getting to tell them again about my story and what I've done as a female and, I do hate this in a way, and I don't like to promote like I'm a female in a male-dominated sport, because I don't want that to be the focus.
Right.
Because we're all people riding motorcycles.
Yep.
But in that kind of environment, like that's what it is.
Mm.
Yeah, I was the only girl on so many training camps, and you go to the 6 days and you're one of 25 women against 600 dudes. Like it's
a big scale.
Yeah. So the public speaking thing is something that is awesome. I love talking. Imagine if I could sing. I always think that I would just love to get up on stage and sing to people, and I have a shit voice, so I have to talk.
Plenty of bad singers out there. I'm sure you do a good job.
And I'm the expert on myself, so it's a pretty easy thing to talk about.
Yeah, that definitely helps, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What's that CRF 230 girl? Mm-hmm. Would she have pictured where you're at now doing this?
No, and especially because there was no international women's team for the International Six-Day Enduro. There was no women's class in the World Enduro GPs. 2006 was the first year that there was a women's class in the Australian 4-Day Enduro, and I was on that. Like, I was in that event.
First one.
Yeah, and I think, like the AORCs, I don't know, like they only started like early 2000s.
Yeah, threes.
Yeah, in 2005 was I turned 16 and raced there. So I kind of was in at the beginning, and that's why, I'm so to Motorcycling Australia about not having women in the wrap-up videos, because I was that girl completely not being able to see any female doing it. And I think like Alison Parker was the only girl that like raced when I was a junior, and she raced clubman. And then from there, like it's grown so much, but I had one woman to look at, and she was, I remember standing at the 4-day once looking at the, final times, and she was like, oh, if I can get into the first half of the clubman, I'm happy. And that was the level of female rider back then. Yep. And now, you've got the girls that could win expert.
Yeah.
I got ninth at an Australian 4-Day Enduro prologue against everybody.
Yeah, that's outright.
Outright.
Yeah.
And that was some, crazy circumstances. I love grass track. It was slippery. A lot of the boys crashed, but I didn't, and I passed people because I obviously had to start a long way back, and it was a 4-minute test, and
yep.
and I got ninth, and it was actually shit on me for the first day, because then I was in front of all these dudes that were actually faster than me, and I got passed in all these tests, and it was actually really bad for my overall time.
Yep.
But it was pretty cool to say I got ninth in that, and then on day 3 I got like 16th, I think, outright in another grass test.
Yep.
And so like the level of female riders has just like from mid clubman to can do top 10 outright is so huge. Awesome. And girls need to see that, because then it's just so much easier. And like Leia Sands, Courtney Duncan, Sandra Gomez, like there are so many amazing women. And like Golden, Vicky Golden, for the freestyle and that crazy side of things. Like there is an idol for every young girl to look at, whether it's Dakar, whether it's trials, whether it's extreme enduro, motocross, like
road race.
Yeah, road race. You can see it happening, and then imagine how far girls can take it from there.
Yep.
It's a very exciting time.
No, really. I think so too. And I look at it through the events and through the other sides of the sport. And Avalon Biddle in New Zealand, super sport champion. It's things like that. It's like, that wouldn't have happened 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Now leading the path for Kawasaki in New Zealand. It's unreal. It's good to see. So it delivers more eyeballs onto it in general, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I think for so long we've been treated as like, oh, good on you, having a go. And it's not like that. We put in the same effort. It costs us the same to get there. The bikes cost the same.
Yeah.
And then, receive like 10% of what the boys get in like sponsorship support. But they had an event last weekend down in Victoria.
Was this the motocross one?
Yeah, and the girls were saying that it was equal prize money.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, which...
That must be a first.
Oh, my gosh, so amazing.
I think it is, eh?
Yeah.
Because I know, speaking to you in the past, what was the rough difference?
So it's all hearsay, because obviously I don't know what the boys'
Roughly?
contracts are. But, for example...
Allegedly.
I heard, and, it's not a wild guess. Like, I think it's pretty accurate. So for one of the boys for what he won for AORC, A4DE, ISDE and test wins at those events, and that's only at races. I don't know what he got like with actual just sign-on deals and stuff, because we didn't get sign-on, that's for sure.
Yep.
About $300,000.
And this is like for like, hey?
Yep. Event for same event.
Apples to apples.
Yep. So $300,000. I did the exact same shit, won the exact same amount of stuff, $30,000.
It's a big difference.
Huge difference.
It's a huge difference.
Huge difference.
Makes your life a lot different, doesn't
and
it?
$30,000 is enough to pay for yourself to live. Put food on your plate, put fuel in your car, and then work your butt off to get the local dentist to pay for a flight to Europe to race world championships.
Doesn't make you a full-time athlete, though.
No.
As in a wage.
Well, no, and that's the thing. Like, I didn't work.
Yeah.
I didn't have a job, because if I had a job, I wouldn't have been able to win the things that I won.
Yep.
So that's where that sacrifice come in. Like, I was happy to make no money. Like, that's the choice I made.
Just wanted to do.
I would be like, oh my gosh, I don't have enough money to get to Europe to race world championships, because I've had to train too hard to have a job, because my job is motorcycling, but I don't get paid for it.
Yep.
So that's why I think growing up in Gympie, it's that small town feel where lots of local businesses got behind me and would pay flights to Europe and pay entries and pay for things, which was really cool. And I couldn't have done it without Gympie.
Yeah.
But then you'd cop it from the boys being like, oh, why don't you just get a job and earn your own money? Like, well, you get paid. I don't.
Yeah.
Like
if you earn $300,000, it's a good head start.
Oh, and the amount of effort that I put in every year just to get myself there. Yeah. Like that, when I'd get on the plane, 27-hour flight ahead of me.
It's time to sleep.
I just get to watch a movie and not think about anything. Like, I've made it. I've got on the plane. And the hardest part was getting on the plane.
What was it like putting deals together? Like putting, parcel and, a bike? Like what was it like to do that even? Like even now, like to manage that? How do you do that? Just relationship?
Yeah, and just like making it happen. And it was always like you didn't even know that you needed to do something, and then all of a sudden you had to do it, and you just did it.
Yeah, right.
And I think that now when I don't know how I did it for so long.
Yeah.
And now I coach some really cool young riders. So James and Jake Shelley are like brothers, local Gympie boys who race enduro, and I, every second Monday I coach them for a couple of hours, and we do like a lot of the goal setting and working out where they're at and what they want to improve and all that side of things as well. And I love that I get the opportunity to share my knowledge there on a regular basis. I forgot what I was talking about.
Goal setting? Moving forward, coaching the young team from Gympie.
Yeah, don't know where I was going with that.
Hey, well, what is you mentioned audiobooks before in the summer? What does Jemma Wilson listen to? What style?
Okay, I'm actually listening to Homo Sapien: A Brief History of Humankind at the moment.
Wow,
and it's really interesting.
Heavy.
Yeah, no, it's not as heavy as you'd think.
Okay.
Yeah, and I've gotten since riding around Northern Territory.
Yep.
Obviously, Northern Territory is still a little bit more remote than the rest of Australia, and the Aboriginal history up there I found like quite interesting.
Yep.
And still, you know, like Catherine, there's still all the communities. And so we did get fuel in one of the Aboriginal communities, and I was blown away by what I didn't know. Like, I didn't know that Aboriginals still had their own language, and that is so sad on my behalf that I didn't know that.
Right.
So I've given myself a slap on the wrist, and I've been reading a lot of Aboriginal history, and just trying to get my head around why Australia is the way we are.
Right.
And I've never been into history. Like at school, I did not do history subjects. I was like, don't want to learn about the past. But knowing what happened in the past, it explains what's happening now. Right. So well, and like drawing those conclusions has been really interesting. And I did the same thing when I started racing in Europe. I was like, World War II, World War One, didn't know anything about this really. Like, you know, you learn the bare minimum at school. So I did get a lot of books out then and learn about different things with that as well. So I find that whatever I'm listening to or reading at the time,
So it relates.
Yeah, it relates to something like I'm like, oh, geez, there's a hole in my knowledge. Like I need to know a bit more about that.
Makes sense. And something you touched on right from the start was school. Mm-hmm. When you're at school, you get a real brief thing, and if you want to follow it, like that's like history.
Yeah.
You get that real little brief insight to it. If you're going to follow it, you're going to follow it. If you don't, it just disappears, doesn't it?
Yeah. And then when I want to switch off, it's just a good old murder mystery.
Really?
But like old English spec. Like the lords and the ladies.
Just real old school. Just
yeah.
It's intriguing. I love hearing what people are reading or listening to or whatever it is, because it's, I don't know, it's not like you can read their character, but you can see what they're educating themselves by or moving forward by, because you can't learn without reading, can you?
No. Or listening to reading. Yeah.
Listening to reading.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's the only way you can sort of move forward and learn.
Yeah. I think too, learning stuff like about what people are listening to or reading is when you meet someone, it's like a really like 2D version.
Yeah, it's a surface.
Yeah, and you pigeonhole people, but nobody is just one thing.
Oh, geez, no.
Yeah, so
it'd be terrible if we were.
Too. Yeah.
And that's our brief encounters, isn't it? Like the general brief encounter that you have with such and such. You're like, oh, hey, how's it going? You know, geez, hot today.
yeah. How's the weather?
How's the weather? But when you really get to know someone or anything, that's the cool part of being humans. You know, I think so anyway. Mm-hmm. How was Northern Territory? Talking of that.
So
what brought that on too?
Okay, so what brought that on was my dad. My dad's 60 and he is super adventurous and super fit and healthy, and he's building this house at the moment on his property. And it's this little cottage, like old shed from a railway that he got moved there, and he stumped it and put these big beams in by himself.
The whole thing?
Whole thing.
Wow.
And he just pokes along and he just works from daylight to dark. and he's like, we're like, oh, you know, because we've got a couple of employees, and John will be like, oh, do you want Zach for a day or two? And Dad's like, no, like I'll just have to worry about somebody else. Just worry about myself. Like, and he just gets it done. Just gets it done. And he's an amazing person. Actually, this is a bit of a side note, but I went and did a working bee at the Sunshine Coast Club, Conondale Club, a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And so I rock in as like, you know, the only female and the youngest person there, apart from a couple of teenage kids that were lending a hand. And it's a little bit like, well, what can I help with at a working bee, where they're trying to get a pump going and they're, you know, fixing a roof and carting shit around. But because of who my dad is and who my husband is, I could help.
I'm in.
Yeah, and I could rock up and, you know, and I couldn't actually build the shit, but I could go get the tool that they needed, and I could help get the, you know, pipes out of the water to fix the pump. And I was like, I actually went home and thanked Dad and John, because without them, like, I would have been shit there. Like, I wouldn't have been helpful. Yeah, so that was really cool. So Dad's super adventurous. He bought, I don't know, actually, I don't really even know. So he bought a 501 for it, all set up and dead keen. And we were going to the Kimberleys. That was the plan.
Yep.
So I don't know, I think we're going to ride to Fink to start with. We were thinking we'd ride out across Simpson Desert and go watch Fink, but then I needed the 701s and they were not available then.
Yep.
And then it was too close to my trail ride as well, the Husqvarna Women's Trail Ride, so it wasn't going to work out. And then so somehow we were like, let's go to the Kimberleys. And so I got these I went and did the Husqvarna 701 track, rode the Husky 701 for the first time. That was the best time also as well. Yep. Such a good week. Yeah, such a good week. And
you remember it? It was a good week, A good week.
It was.
We'll get to that.
It was a really good week. And so I rode the 701. The one that I rode, John got to buy.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and then I got to take the one that Clubby rode
Yes.
home with me.
Yep.
And I've still got it now. I have to give it back in February. And so we had these bikes and we were still like, oh, where do we go? And then we decided Kimberley's. So I coached these 3 girls, Heaton's Heaton's Plant and Pipeline.
Yep.
And they do a lot of stuff in the Northern Territory. And so he hooked me up with freight. So bike freight. So we chucked our bikes on a truck and sent them to Darwin.
Yeah.
And it was like a week out. And John had never ridden the 701. We had no saddlebags, no camping equipment, nothing. We knew nothing. I was like, what do we eat when we're in the wilderness for 8 days?
So you had no real grand
Nothing.
plan.
And Dad had like highlighted a few potential roads on a map. Like that was us. So we got on this plane.
Cool.
We went up to. I went up early because one of my best mates lives up there, and she'd been up there for 8 years, and I never visited her.
Yeah. Right.
So I went and spent a few days with Em, and then got the bikes on a Friday, and then Dad and John rolled in on the Sunday.
Yep.
And we're going to leave first thing Monday morning. Dad's finger's so swollen, it's infected. He has been like hallucinating because it's like so infected, and he's gone to hospital the day before, and he's on these like crazy antibiotics, and he had to change a tyre. He ended up with a flat on the way up, sending it up. And he was like, ooh. And we're like, we cannot ride out of Darwin. Like,
Come on, Dad.
this is not good. So we're like, no, Dad, we're going to hang out another night, sort of get a bit more organised, try and find a way to keep your antibiotics cold because they have to stay like below 25 degrees or whatever, and it's Darwin.
Yeah.
So we ended up leaving on the Tuesday morning.
Yeah.
We pinned it like the 600 Ks on the bitumen. Actually, we got 300 Ks down the road to Catherine, and we'd thrown knobs on the rear tyres already.
Oh, no.
So we had the wrong tyre choice, obviously.
Yeah.
And so we went to the bike shop at Catherine. They had 3 tyres that were perfect and would fit our 701s and 501.
Meant to be.
And they balanced Dad's bike because his back end was like bouncing around the road. So that was good for him
for his
as well. Yeah. So then we pinned it across to Timber Creek. We got to Timber Creek and we were like, oh, we need to do a border pass to get across to WA. Do the border pass, it's like, you've been denied. And I was like, no. So we stayed just out of Timber Creek, just at like a little campsite on the side of the road. And so next morning I did it again because I thought maybe just in my hurry after like 600 Ks bitumen in the heat, I'd just pressed the wrong button or something. And I was like, no, they'd changed the rules. And because we hadn't been in Northern Territory for 2 weeks, we weren't allowed, we were from Queensland still. They'd made all of Queensland like a medium risk area.
Yep.
So we couldn't get across the border. So we rode back to Timber Creek and we were like, well, what do we do? So then we rode around Northern Territory for 8 days.
That was why you did.
And we had no plan. Like we were planning to go to WA. So we saw some cool shit. We rode some cool stuff. We camped in some interesting places. Like we got very hot.
Yeah.
We went to waterfalls. We saw crocodiles.
Just a good time.
It was really, really fun. I loved it. My dad was in heaven and he had no tent, no mosquito net. He had a short mattress that was just shoulder to hip in the dirt.
That's it.
And John and I felt bad for him. And we had this little like metre by, half a metre tarp from Bunnings, and we gave that to him so at least he wasn't in the dirt.
Yeah. But he was open-aired.
It's open-aired. He'd just go find a tree, lay under a tree.
That's good.
John and I had a little tent. Just had like the dehydrated food, and it was a really cool learning experience. And I think that we did a good job considering we had never done anything like it.
Yeah.
Dad had ridden around Australia in his 20s, so in like the 80s on a BMW.
Yeah.
But like literally, so he rode off into the wilderness for 8 days with nothing but a bag of tea bags, some dried apricots, and some nuts and seeds.
Wow.
And was like, you've got some food for me? Hey, Gemma. Yeah, Dad.
That's it.
No tent. Like,
What a gem.
Yeah, just a unit, dead set unit. But it's so much fun. So he loved it. He went swimming in like crocodile-infested places, and he just does not give
It's just all
a
on.
flying F. Like, he just
All on.
just doing it. And John, he's like, look, I'm glad you made me do it, but I'm never doing it again.
Really?
Yeah.
Not happening.
So we rode up to the Cape, Dad and I, with North Queensland Trail Bike Adventures in 2019. And the plan was Dad would ride a day, John would ride a day, Dad would ride a day. And the other day they would be in the truck. Dad rode the first day and wouldn't give John the bike.
Just loved it.
He just loved it so much. And John was like, yeah, fine, like, you do it. I don't really care. So John sat in the truck for like 6 days. And he regretted that he missed out. He did ride the last day and got to the actual tip and rode along the beaches and stuff, and realised that it was pretty fun. And he just was a bit worried about riding for 6 days because he'd never ridden more than like probably 2-3 times in his life.
Wow.
So for this one, he had like FOMO and he didn't want to miss out. So he come and did this 8 days. And day 2, he tells the story so good. He just chucked the biggest nana and was like, you and your dad are always in a fucking hurry to go nowhere.
Really?
Yeah. And I was like, John, man, like, it's for all of us. Like, if you want us to slow down, if you want us to take a chill pill, if you want to hang out by a creek for half an hour, like, tell us. He's like, oh, okay. And then we had a really good time.
Back to John again.
And so, yeah, he's like, look, I'm glad I did it, but it's not for me. So our next one, we want to like go to Tassie or, you know, the Victorian High Country, but stay places. So, because he enjoyed the riding and the adventure riding suits John, because adventure riding isn't about going fast. It's about getting there and having this cool experience and exploring and, you know, deciding to take that road less travelled. But then pulling into somewhere where there's a nice comfy bed and a hot shower and some food that isn't from Dehydrated, you know, a packet.
For TV.
That's definitely more John's style. So I'm glad we did. Like, we're all glad we did it.
Yeah.
And I could just live that life for the rest of my life so happily. Like,
so you really, you're at home.
Yeah. There's no place that I'm happier. And same with Dad. He just loves it. And Dad and I'm glad John was there because I think Dad and I might have got ourselves into some straff. John would be the voice of reason.
Okay.
Yeah. No, guys, it says no riding. Don't go down there.
Yeah. This is land you should not ride
on. And so it was good. John kind of slowed us up a little bit in a good way.
How was you've done a fair time on the 701 now. How's your time been on it?
I have, yeah. So I was not sure what it would be like, and I was a little bit I found it a bit daunting when I went to the 701 track because I was this big bike, and I'm like 163 centimetres tall, and I'm, you know, like not a huge built person. So I was a little bit worried. And then so the first day of the 701 track, I was a bit tentative, and I rode, like, Rosie was like, hey, this is, I forget his name because I'm so bad with names, but this cool guy, he's here by himself, you guys should ride together. So I happily sat in behind him and just cruised and had a really nice time. And then day 2, got into it a little bit more and starting to feel a little bit more comfortable. But I kept finding that when I would like go over logs and it would just like spin, there was this really tight section. So like the chili rating, it was like a 6 chili rating. Means hard.
Yeah, sounds right.
Chili rating was a pretty fun time at the 701 tracks. And when I would go over woe boys and like rev, and it wouldn't rev in the air, so I'd land really hard and like hurt my wrists, and I was like, man, like this is a cool bike, but I'm just finding it a little bit difficult. Then day 2 afternoon, I find out that I had traction control on the whole time.
Really?
Which stopped like the wheel spinning in the air, stopped the wheel spinning on the log. So I was like pushing like this big bike over logs and stuff, because it's different to the enduro bikes. In the enduro bikes, if the TC light is on, traction control's on.
That's right, yep.
On the 701, if the TC light is off, the traction control is on.
Really?
Yeah, so day 3 and 4 was awesome because then I had this bike that did what I wanted it to do.
Yep.
And as soon as you get going, you forget that it's big. It's so comfy, like it's so good to ride. And we did a little bit of everything on the track. We had big open roads, we had, you know, windy bitumen, we had open fire roads, you know, gravel, windy gravel, and then we had like super tight crossing old train lines in the rainforest and coughs kind of stuff, a little bit of everything. And it was fantastic. And I think I only dropped it like, I don't know if I dropped it heaps. That's right. So I had to replace quite a few levers.
You did? Yeah.
Because it would be like that pull up, or I'd be sitting there talking to, you know, the guy I was riding with, and then all of a sudden just be like, oh.
Foot race.
And then break a lever. So the boys did have to put a few new levers on for me.
Has it been durable? Like, for like saying you're dropping it, and it's been good?
Yeah, 100%. So like I've ridden quite a few. I've done over 5,000 Ks on this bike. now,
Jeez.
and I put bark busters on it. Now I
Yep.
don't break levers, and I dropped it a couple of times in the NT fully loaded and like couldn't pick it up again.
Yep.
But again, it was like once I was actually riding, it was through this creek section and just hit like silt on wet rock and
Yep.
just. But then the other times it'd like pull up in a car park, fell into Dad once actually, because once it started going, it's
all over.
gone.
Yep.
And then all fully loaded with all the camping gear and stuff, I couldn't pick it up. But you can't tell that it's done 8 days around Northern Territory in the red dirt. Like you
Wow.
can't tell that it's been up the beach. Like it looks brand new still. It's very cool. And you know, to do 2,500 k's around Northern Territory and do a service when we left and a service when we got back
And not anything
was
else.
awesome. Like, you know,
Yep.
Dad on the 501 had to carry oil and do a service.
Yep.
So yeah, it's such a cool bike. And it's, you know, and like I rode it down, like I'm gimpy. I'm now at Slacks Creek. I rode it
Yep.
down the highway and I was a little bit like, ooh, geez, I'm going to ride this down the highway. And the reason was I was going into Brisbane on Monday morning and I
Yep.
wanted to lane split. Can't do that in a car. And it's comfortable. And I've got a motocross helmet on as well.
Yep.
Because I showed up to a motocross camp and I was like, I can't ride an adventure bike with a road bike helmet and like 15-year-old kids will be really judgy. So I do it with a motocross
Got to
helmet.
go through the head. Yep.
So yeah, just earplugs, motocross helmet.
It's good.
Happy down the highway.
Nice.
Yeah.
I just keep asking the question about it. You know my thought on it, especially after like you obviously yourself and Rosie lent it to me at your event. It's pretty good. It's pretty appealing.
It is.
Yeah.
It really can do everything. And I've just been using it to like shoot out to school,
Yep.
you know, head into the gym and like to finish a gym session and then jump on the bike and feel the breeze it's a really nice kind of switch off. And I think when you're in a car, well, when I'm in a car, I listen to a podcast.
Yep.
Like I listen to an audiobook and I'm always trying to learn something. When I'm on the bike, I don't. And I
Yeah.
have those little conversations with myself and I work out the plans for the next thing. And it's a good time for me, I think.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same with that as well. Like if music's just dropped off in the car.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Like I love music so much, but if I'm not learning now through something, it just seems like a pointless trip to somewhere.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's weird how that works.
It is.
Why the rebranding?
Yeah, okay. So I liked my old logo.
Yep.
And it saw me through a lot of different phases of like me and what I was doing and racing. And I didn't hate it. It was just time to mature it a little bit.
Okay.
I think like the colours I was using and the font, it was quite young. It was 22-year-old Gemma.
Mm-hmm.
It's now 32-year-old Gemma. And I just do so much more than I used to. Like I raced and that was that.
Yep.
And I have always done that public speaking a little bit, but it used to be a lot of like I'd just go into schools and do it for free because it was a good learning opportunity.
Yep.
And kind of just spreading how much I love motorcycling to everybody. But now with the I sell I make a lot of merch. So like the shop side of things, that's something that I think in 2022 I put no effort into it.
Yep.
I sell some really cool shirts and some cool designs because women in motorcycling, there's a bit of a lack. There's one type of style.
Yep.
There's one style of clothing for you if you're a girl and you ride a motorbike. So I wanted to just kind of create some different options. And then my event, I've got these customers that are like, oh my gosh, spontaneous shopping in the middle of the bush. Yes, please.
I'm in.
Yeah. Yep. And originally, to be fair, it was a way to market myself like that paid for itself.
Yep.
And then I was like, oh, there's actually this opportunity for like another part of the business, but it's hard work. Like merchandise is hard. Like having a shop, and I've never got the right sizes, and I've never got the right colours.
There's a lot to it, eh?
There's so much to it, and it's you have to have stock sitting there, and it's a lot of money. It's to fork out to get things happening, and so I think the main thing for me, the rebranding was I want people to know I do more than coach women, and more than run the fun events. I've also got the shop. And I speak, and I love the speaking side of what I do, and I want to do it more.
Yep.
And I would like the opportunity to, like, I did one at MX store a year ago maybe, and it was to the girls, and it was like a girls can do anything kind of talk for International Women's Day, but the whole motivational team building, the messages that I have, it's not just about International Women's Week.
Right.
It can be, any sort of corporate environment, like and do interactive leadership. You have big companies get, a football player in.
Yes.
And they do a good job and it's really cool, but why can't it be motorcycling?
For sure.
Like, it's the same message, but it's motorcycling.
Yep.
Yeah. So for me, that's what the rebranding was about. And my website, obviously, all of my events you book through my website, and it was a bit clunky, and it was really great. And I used another local Gympie lady, and she did a brilliant job, and like her pricing was very, very achievable for me back then. And I didn't know what I needed in a website. But it was just time to have something a bit nicer and a bit more streamlined, a little bit more user-friendly, because I think my old website was a little bit clunky, but it's because we just kept adding to it as things grew. But this has been like custom made for everything that I need, and it's really pretty.
Nice. And it funnels, it works well, like it funnels through as well. Doesn't it?
Whereas I had to click and click and click and guess and click and then maybe get to an entry.
Like your event, like an event. If you've got a poor user experience at the front end of it,
Yep.
it makes it very difficult to have your event on that.
Yeah, and that was one of the reasons for the new website was I want the customer experience to be amazing right from that first moment that a lady sees a Gemma Wilson event flyer.
Yep.
Because that's what it's about. It's about them, and that's a big thing about my weekends too. It's not about me. It's about them. And I think that's where some like people who go from racing to coaching, they forget it's not about them anymore. And it's about the women meeting other chicks, asking questions. Yeah, I don't really even talk about myself ever at them because it's not about me. It's about the girls. I sit back and let them make new friends.
And racer brain, that's very difficult to turn off for a lot of people. You know, like it has been me for a long time, I guess too. So was that a hard transition?
Not in the coaching sense, because I've never really like doing a podcast. So like I did a podcast with Gypsy Tales a couple years ago, and so many people were like, holy shit, I didn't know anything about that. I didn't know anything about you in that way. And they'd be like my husband's best mates who I used to live with when I was like 18.
Really?
And they didn't know most of the stuff because I don't really talk about myself. So doing a podcast is a really amazing opportunity because it is just talking about yourself.
Yeah.
So for me, in that environment, turning off the racer brain wasn't hard. But for my personal relationship with John, that has been hard.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So kudos to him.
Again. But,
I have a lot of the boys in the racer world. It was a bit of a saying, poor John.
Really?
Yeah, poor John, having to deal with me. Poor John. Poor John.
What other events, things would you like to see, have, do, all that?
So for 2022, I'm not doing anything new. I'm not doing anything more because I want to make the events that I have even better, and find ways to like promote and work with the partners in more interesting ways. And because a couple of the events, I feel like I've just had the time to make them happen, but not grow them or make them better. Because for the past few years, I've just been adding and seeing an opportunity and taking it. So for 2022, I'm pretty adamant. Things change.
Yep.
But at the moment, I'm pretty adamant that I'm going to have the 5 Fox Women's Off-Road campouts.
Yep.
So 2 in Queensland, 2 in Victoria, and 1 in New South Wales. Fingers crossed for New South Wales and Victoria.
Yeah.
The Husqvarna Women's Trail Ride, the now Dry Times Women's Ride Day.
Yep.
And the Hightail Fancy Ladies Road Ride. So Dry Times and Hightail are new naming rights sponsors for those events. So that's pretty exciting. And that's nothing I didn't run last year. This year. We're still in this year.
Yeah. Doesn't seem like it, but yeah. Yep.
I just want to make them even better and kind of plug some holes. And, I've thought about 80% of the customer experience. I want to make that last 20%.
Yep.
Even better. And sometimes like, for example, and it's little things. So at the Fox Women's Ride Day, now Dry Times Women's Ride Day, we have mechanics. We supply mechanics, and same with the Husqvarna Women's Trail Ride. We encourage the girls to leave their support crew at home, so come and do it yourself. Because unfortunately, we lose so many women riders because they love riding bikes with their husband or their dad or their brother or their boyfriend, but then their circumstances change, and they don't know how to do it without that male in their life. So the idea is get the support if you need it to load up at one end. We'll help you at the other end if you need it. But most of the time, the girls are like, I'll sing out if I need you. but I'm going to give this a red hot crack, which
Yep.
is awesome, and I love that. So because we tell them to leave their support crew at home, we supply mechanics, and we also, where we can, depending on what bikes are available, supply some demo bikes so girls can come and have a go on a new 250 or 350 or 150 Husky.
Yep.
But when you're kind of standing around, milling around, waiting for, Marcel or one of the Husky mechanics to fix your bike, there's like nowhere comfy to sit. So we realised, we need like another couple quick shades. We need some bean bags. We need like an esky there with some waters. We need some sort of environment there because we're missing an opportunity for a cool customer experience. So like the main parts of the events are fantastic. So for 2022, I want to fix those events.
Yes.
Those parts of the events, make them even better. And then obviously like Transmotos, I love them. I do a few. I do the ones that I can. But for 2022, I'm going to go down and hang out with the Transmoto boys for the week before their first event at Tumut, I think you say it. T-U-M-U-T.
Yeah.
Tumut. It's like turmeric. It's how I remember it.
Yeah.
Tumut.
The great anti-inflammatory.
And kind of like work experience. Because I'm sure I don't know what I don't know, and they run such an amazing event on such a grand scale.
For sure.
And they've been doing it for a lot longer, and there's, 3 of them that co-own Transmoto now, and I'm just poor little old me. So I want to see what they achieve and how they achieve it, and they're happy for me to come and learn, which is pretty awesome that they want to share that knowledge with me and not keep it all to themselves.
For sure.
And,
Yep.
and they could just swoop in and like try to take everything that I've created, but they want to help me succeed even more with what
Yep.
I've created, which is pretty amazing. And like, thank you so much to the Transmoto boys.
Yep.
So go and be a bit more involved with the Transmoto side of things. Then also just recently, like over the weekend, I think Transmoto and Husqvarna Gas KTM announced a customer experience events.
Yep.
In May and April.
Kubi Dam, May.
Stroud.
Yeah, Stroud.
So yeah, Stroud, Kubi Dam, Wangaratta.
Wangaratta.
Yeah, so it's like 2 weeks. So it's 1 weekend, two weekends later, and then 3 weekends
It's
later.
later after that.
Yeah.
So May, June, start of July. Yep.
Yeah. So I'm really looking forward to them, and I'm going to be at all 3 as an ambassador
Okay.
for Husky. And so we were actually talking about this before we set up the
previously
mics.
yeah.
But having so many guys over the years have been like, why don't you run campouts for men? I'm like, guys, serious? You don't need a special weekend to go ride motos with your mates.
Yep.
Like you do it. You already do it. But I think that this is a really cool because Transmoto and KTM Gas Husqvarna have partnered up to create kind of if you got Transmoto, which is a timed trail ride, I think of it, but a race.
Yep.
And then my events, which are a really fun, recreational event, and you mush them together, you've got this fun recreational event for the blokes, which is going to be really cool. And they're family, so it's designed for a family event. Dad will be there with his husky, and my little sister will be there with her little husky, and it'll be a real family environment at the Kubi Dam one, that's for sure. So I'm really looking forward to them, and I think that's a really cool initiative and good on, again, Husky.
Forward thinking.
Yeah, forward thinking and thinking outside the mold and giving customers somewhere to ride their new bikes.
Yeah.
Which then they go, well, I need that new helmet. I'll buy it now. I've got to put fuel on my bike. I've got to get new tyres. I've got to do that oil change. Yeah, my kid needs a new bike. I'll buy it now.
Yeah, and you bring that user experience in, don't you? You're sold on it.
Yeah. And then people are, happy to go spend their money in the industry, which grows our industry, to go and have fun on their bikes, which is awesome. So good on Transmoto and Husky.
And at the end of the day, you take away the event side of it, the partnerships that you've got and the relationships, the brands want to sell bikes. You know, that's the end goal is that. And, these brands that are thinking like that, they'll sell bikes from it. Yeah,
imagine if you and your 4 mates, right?
Yep.
And your 4 mates have Huskies or KTMs or gases.
Yep.
And they're going to the Ride Out Moto weekend.
Yeah.
And you've got a Yamaha.
Yeah.
I know what you're going to do.
Yeah.
You're not going to miss out, are you?
No, you're going to go buy a bike, aren't you?
Yeah. So, good on them.
Yeah, it's and it's smart, and it's the way that, you mentioned it before, forward thinking, you keep thinking forward about how to create better user experiences, it's going to happen. And Transmoto filled that plug massively in the 2000s, the mid 2000, whatever it was. And now it's just growing from that, isn't it?
Yeah, and how crazy, how quickly Transmoto sell out.
Insane.
And how many events they have planned in 2022.
Yeah.
They are busy, busy boys, and it's so cool.
And as you know from running an event, to run, say, 8 grand scale, 6 or 8, whatever it is,
Yeah.
grand scale events, that's more than full time.
Oh, yeah.
That's a big job.
Yeah, it's a big job, yeah. So my hat goes off to them, that's for sure. And, like, they have suffered so hard with COVID.
Yes.
I've been pretty lucky. Like, I haven't made it to Vic. Obviously, I didn't make it to New South Wales this year, but I managed to, like, slip in between a lull in COVID last year. So I've only missed New South Wales 1 year, Victoria 2 years, but I've got to run everything else.
That's good. Yeah.
And a couple of things I've had to, change, like alter, keep small. Like the Fancy Ladies Road Ride this year was when we had some restrictions around how many people could be in a house.
Yep.
So we could only have 7 riders, myself, Izzy helping me out, and Zoe Bakari being sweep rider. So like we had to keep it small. But other than that, like I've pretty much just got to run my events. So I've been very lucky.
Absolutely, you really have. And you look at Transmoto. It's been tough for them. They're doing they've always got stuff happening.
Yes, it's
that's
so
the other side of
proactive.
it,
Yeah.
So, what other events, like, are you going back to in New South Wales, Victoria, and like high country stuff again? That'll be was it Dargle? Where'd you base yourself that time? That's what I'm actually getting at.
Yeah, no. So for Victoria, I use a property at Paul Punker, so just outside Bright.
Whose was that again?
So that's the Magoos.
Yeah. Are you going back to there at all?
Yeah.
That's
so
the plan, hey?
that's Victoria in late October. So
Yeah,
2
cool.
back-to-back weekends in October.
Yep.
And then Gloucester. So it's like
Yep.
1,000-acre property on the Barrington River.
Yeah.
Barrington River.
Yeah.
Just outside Gloucester. And so as things work out, Ollie and James, his 2 best mates, own it. And my friend Helly, she gets her eyebrows done by Ollie's wife.
Wow.
And Ollie's wife was like, yeah, if you ever want to use the property. And Helly's like, well, I've got this friend. And they were like, yeah, sure. So we ran a camp out there last year, and the boys come out and like helped out and slashed tracks and, helped the girls get some bikes going in the morning, and then disappeared, made themselves scarce while we did our ladies only thing. And then like they took rubbish back for us.
Jeez.
And yeah, they're really, really, really nice dudes. So, and I love that I get, and like they didn't want money for it. So quite a few properties that I use don't want money. So we do donations to Westpac.
Yep.
Because I feel like, I'm running a business. I don't want to take something for nothing kind of thing. So yeah, whenever people want to do that, I do a donation on their behalf to Westpac Chopper, because who knows?
Yep.
One of us might need it one time.
Happens.
Yeah, so, and that's what I try to do with my events, is use really special properties.
Yep.
So we're not just sitting in some crap hole or going to some place where anyone could just ride any day of the week. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, like MX Farm, you can go there, any weekend, but can you have the whole park to yourself?
No.
And can you be broken into, I'm a beginner and I'm going to use that jump as a hill climb?
Yep.
So you're broken into a group with all girls that are using the jump as a hill climb, so that you're not scared about getting jumped on.
Yep.
So taking away the intimidation. That's what all like my ladies only, actually, and it's not just my ladies only events. Any of my coaching, when I have like big group coaching too, it's all about taking away the intimidation. Doesn't matter who you are, what bike you're on, whether you're a dude or a woman. We're all riding bikes.
Yep.
We're all got to start somewhere.
And we all get intimidated.
Exactly.
Like, doesn't matter
It's
who.
not just the girls.
We all get intimidated, and everyone does. I've been with you and been intimidated, like not intimidated, but looked at things and gone, and I've seen you explain it to somebody and then me attack it myself.
Yeah.
And it makes sense. So, what's a perfect day for Gemma Wilson riding wise? What do you like to ride? What's your terrain? What do you look for?
So single trail.
That's
single
you?
lane, yeah. So like Emamore, I've been running a fair bit in Emamore recently.
So good, eh?
Yeah, and so my friend Luke Tchaikovsky from Village Bicycle,
Yep.
he's just starting a company called Trailbound Tours.
Yep.
And so he'll do a bang up job, like he's legit, and he's a chef. So overnight, and cater and create a really cool vibe. So it's going to be, for everybody. And I put my hand up to be a sweep if he's short a sweep. Not all the time, but if he's short a sweep every now and then. And that's going to be based in Emamore. But he's been scouting that out and making these amazing plans, routes. So tagging along with him has been
Nice.
really fun over the last couple of months, because he's learnt that place like the back of his hand. So it's nice. It's nice when you go somewhere and you've got a leader who knows where
Knows
the good
the way.
stuff is.
It's like we've cut a lot of tracks ourselves up there with my different business to Luke's.
Yeah.
TRC Adventures for anyone listening. But there's so much up there.
Yeah, so
it's really
much.
good to ride. So.
Yeah, and it's something for everyone.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. It's
yeah.
it's not hardcore. Like you go a bit further south, it's rocky, ruddy. Can be a bit harder for everyone, but
Yeah, and like the
area is
full
better.
drive ruts and all that kind of stuff when you get like glasshousey area and yeah.
it's a bit funny. So interesting. So that's you, single tracks.
Yeah, but I am enjoying the 701
Yep.
in that little bit more open stuff
Mm-hmm.
too, which is new. I didn't think I would, and like we did a ride with Luke Kempy from Young Henry's.
Yep.
And Kempy rode one of the 701s. I was on a 701. Luke was on his 450. And my friend Jenna, who works at MX Store, Generator.
Yep.
Shout out to her Instagram page, Cheese McQueen. She makes cheese.
Wow.
She was on my 250. And so we went and did this huge day's riding. So we both rode the 701s from my house to my dad's. And
Yep.
I showed her around like where I grew up. And, you know, it was a bit of a ride. It was a pre-ride ride. And then the boys showed up. She jumped on my 250. We rode from my house, so like just outside Gympie, to Kalula Way, up Kalula Way, through Kings Bore, to Rainbow, had lunch, up the beach, back through Freshwater, back along Kalula Way, back to my house. We got in like on dark.
Big day.
And she goes, yeah, so that was my first trail ride ever.
Serious?
Yes.
Wow.
But like I really, really enjoyed that. And, you know, I'm cruising along, you know, and we were sharing bikes a little bit because I wanted like Luke and Kempy to both try the 701 and Jenna to try the 701 and like not trying to go fast, just riding with my friends. Like it was just such a good day.
Can't beat those days.
Yeah, you know, having lunch at the beach. So I'm really enjoying that kind of riding now as well.
Hard to beat.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, we've probably done, I don't know. How long do you reckon? Oh, you're looking at your watch.
I looked at my watch. Yeah, I didn't think it was that long.
Yeah, we've done a bit over 2 hours, Gemma. You can chat all day.
I could.
I can chat all day, but yeah, we'll leave it there for now anyway. Thanks for everything. Obviously, you've employed me. You're a friend, and yeah, just thanks so much for coming in. Genuinely appreciate you as a person and everything that you're doing for the sport. So thanks heaps, eh?
Yeah, thanks you too. And I've been listening to a few episodes of the podcast, and you know so much. Like you don't have your blinkers on, and I really appreciate that for someone who's like in your role doing this podcast. Because yeah, you do a really good job of it.
Awesome, thanks,
Yeah.
mate. Well,
Cool.
yeah, let's hang out.
Yeah, thanks. Bye.
That's all we have time for in today's show. If you get the chance, head over to YouTube and hit subscribe on the Talk and Chatter page. Also, head over to iTunes and give us a star rating and a review there. It all helps to get the podcast out there. A big thank you goes to everyone that's been doing this already, and we'll be back with another show soon.